Chapter 1886. Artifacts were divided into 9 levels. Level 8 was Sage, and Level 9 was God. Possessing a Level 9 divine artifact was equivalent to having God's help. A true god wielding a divine artifact was like adding wings to a tiger. Back then, Byron was only a reincarnation sage, but she could use the eternal sacred fire to control the Heaven's Tower and even fight with a God Realm Demon Emperor. It was clear how terrifying the enhancement of a divine artifact was. Although Byron could wield a divine artifact, she was not its owner. In addition, her cultivation was not as high as Yu Qianwei's, and the terrifying enhancement brought by the divine sword was far from her. It was not that the Heaven's Tower was inferior to Yu Tianwei's black divine sword, but Byron's cultivation was insufficient. In addition, she was not the owner of the Heaven's Tower and could not unleash much of the divine artifact's power. A Level 9 divine artifact was extremely rare even in the divine world. Ordinary true gods might not be qualified to own a complete divine artifact. Using god power to wield a divine artifact, the difference in power unleashed was like heaven and earth. It was incomparable. Yu Tianwei cut Lin Chen's battle spear in half. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent, and her sword flashed wildly. Enough, as she coldly declared, a powerful and domineering sword intent was released continuously, cutting through the void and crushing everything around her. She was holding a divine sword, but she could not take down a sage. If this were to spread back to her family, it would be a great humiliation. Her reputation would probably plummet, and she would be nailed to the pillar of shame. On the black sword, a terrifying sword intent with faint flickering flames faintly filled the air. The sword's edge was mixed with a sharpness that could cut through the sky. It was as if absolute laws of nature were gathered on the tip of the sword. At this moment, all the true gods present were shocked. Shangguan Qi's face turned pale, and she said in shock, "Could it be? This pressure could not be wrong." It was enough to cause the majority of true divinities to tremble in fear. Shangguan Yin suddenly shouted coldly, "Lin Chen, run! Don't be affected by her sword." Lin Chen's eyes focused. That sword seemed to have a life of its own. It was brewing an unprecedented sword. This sword would be a peerless sword that Lin Chen had never experienced or seen before in the three-dimensional universe. Boom! Space trembled, and the curved four-dimensional world collapsed in an instant. The sword intent converged into a line, and the sword light pointed straight at Lin Chen. This sword strike was extraordinary and indestructible through the ages. What sword god? Sword extinction. It wasn't even 1% of the profundity of this sword. It faintly contained the truth of the sword Tao, the heavenly might of the sword Tao, and the divine punishment of the sword Tao. A streak of white light cut through the heavens and the earth like a rainbow and descended before Lin Chen. With an aura that could destroy everything, it directly shook the area of his holy power. In that split second, Lin Chen's intuition told him that he had to retreat. Even if he were to use the Godslayer status, he would still die if he were to take this attack head-on. However, you want me to back off? Lin Chen's anger soared to the heavens, his battle intent sweeping through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Practically like a bolt of lightning, Lin Chen's right arm was covered in boundless and dazzling divine radiance, and then a golden light flashed as he swiftly swung his fist forward. Wong, wong, wong. The space cracked inch by inch, and the twisted four-dimensional space collapsed instantly, as if it had been twisted into a ball of dough. A beam of divine light soared into the sky. Boom! Bang! The sky above Blood Fox Mountain shook instantly, as if it had exploded. The terrifying airwaves destroyed countless towering trees, and the earth veins cracked one after another. The python-like cracks spread all the way, and a layer of air on the surface of the earth seemed to have been lifted off and exploded. Everyone only saw a streak of white light flashing from the black sword. The whole world seemed to have exploded and everything was shattered and withered. Damn it, is that really a killing move that a sage can use? What on earth did he do? This old man can feel an extraordinary divine power descending. What a monster! That's a sword of laws that can kill a second-tier divine realm warrior. All the deities were horrified. Lien Qingyu's voice trembled as he said, I can't be wrong. That sword attack is definitely a great Dao law, and it's the famous sword law. When he entered Blood Fox Mountain, he had always looked down on the seventh-tier saint realm, but he had overturned his understanding again and again. Yu Tianwei, that crazy woman, had used the divine sword to activate a wisp of the sword law, one of the 3,000 great Daos. Wherever the sharpness pointed, it would be the pinnacle of the sword. Only Shangguan Yun, who had the highest cultivation level present, was dumbfounded when she saw that scene. Was it my imagination? Shangguan Yun muttered to herself, and a trace of disbelief appeared on her cold and beautiful face. The moment Lin Shun punched, she vaguely saw the figure of a golden god of war flash past. At that moment, Shangguan Yun's first thought was only one word. Invincible. Truly invincible. As the smoke spread, all the true gods sent out a wisp of their essence spirits to observe the situation. They saw Lin Chen's silver robe fluttering in the wind amidst the twisting airflow vortex, and a red glow rose around him. A faint red glow and dragon aura circulated around his body, forming an absolute defense, and he was not damaged at all. As for Yu Tianwei on the other side, even his figure had disappeared. Her pitch-black divine sword fell into the void, and there was still a broken arm holding onto the sword hilt. The divine sword was covered in cracks, and its light was dim. It had lost all its spirit, and it was like a precious jade that was about to shatter. It was a ghastly sight. Phew! This punch destroyed the set essence that I collected with great difficulty from the foot of the mountain. However, the harvest this time is worth the huge expenditure. Lin Shun leaped into the air, and in front of all the true gods present, he stomped his foot down. Crack! Bang! Lin Chen's foot crushed the divine sword that was on the verge of shattering, turning it into a pile of fragments and attribute light balls. Intermediate set essence. 20 million points, set essence. 92 million points, set essence. 49. 99 million points, Lin Chen's attribute points skyrocketed. At that moment, all the arcane sect members' mouths trembled, and their eyelids twitched. Was he still human? With one move, he had broken the arm of Yu Tianwei, who was known as the Battle Maniac. He had taken a peerless sword move that contained a wisp of the sword law head-on. He had even shattered the legendary stage 9 divine sword. This isn't good, retreat. Damn it. How could such a monster be born in the three-dimensional universe? An ancient powerhouse. He's definitely a monster from an ancient powerhouse. No, he might even be a level higher than that. Damn it, I don't want this lousy slot anymore. Leaving is the best plan. Just as the Shangguan sisters were shocked, the other true gods saw that the situation was not good and began to retreat with their ultimate techniques. However, this was Blood Fox Mountain, and the blood fog was thick. Their perception range was limited, and they did not dare to fly over the mountain peak. Once they entered the center of the blood fog, it would be difficult for them to escape. Lin Chen's clone was like a maggot attached to a bone, chasing all the true gods relentlessly. Lin Chen turned his gaze and sneered. You want to leave after showing off? It's too late. Almost as soon as Lin Chen finished speaking, the dragon aura in his body suddenly rushed out and materialized. Dragon come. Boom, boom. The dragon aura shook the sky, and pale green dragon claws tore through the blood fog. A divine dragon shining with golden light descended. At that moment, all the true gods locked onto by the pair of yin-yang dragon eyes felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. The coldness was bone-piercing, and their scalps were numb. Chapter 1887. Draconic might rolled and destroyed the heavens and earth, while the primordial divine dragon suppressed the 8 desolates. Its dragon scales were dark green, and red clouds swirled around its body. It had 4 limbs and sharp claws. It had the head of a chelan and the tail of a carp. It had a long beard and dark green horns. When the golden clouds swirled around its body, it faintly emitted a dark green brilliance that absorbed time and space. Every pale green dragon scale on the divine dragon's body showed the dragon race's civilization of the past. It was as if an ancient dragon race relic had descended. The dragon head with a long beard breathed out a golden storm. Its dragon eyes emitted a light that could pierce through gold and stone. Could this be the legendary ancient dragon of the dragon race, the primordial dragon? Shangguan Qi exclaimed in shock, as if she had been struck by lightning. In just half a day, what she had seen today had overturned everything she knew. Shangguan Yin stared at the huge dragon body in the void and said in a trembling voice, "No, it's not that simple. The dragon tail has a faint blue, indestructible dragon aura and the yin-yang dragon eyes. This is a divine dragon with multiple bloodlines." All the true gods who were stared at by that pair of yin-yang dragon eyes felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Lien Xingyu couldn't help but curse. F*CK. Are you a F** king human? The 5th prince was dumbfounded. A divine dragon as a companion? You brat, just where did you come from? What's your goal? Lin Shen laughed mockingly. Where did I come from? Lin Shen raised his hand and pointed his middle finger at the sky. My goal is to cross over to the divine world in the future. I'll let you know who the toughest man is. Rumble. The divine dragon under his feet let out a long roar, and the mountains and rivers shook. The dragon's aura turned into a huge ocean that covered the 9 heavens and 10 lands, binding up many water prisons. Endless waves rolled over Blood Fox Mountain and became the torture devices of the prisons, blocking everyone's escape route. The 5 extreme heavenly prisons covered a part of the Blood Fox Mountain. Whether it was a reincarnation sage or a quasi-god, they were all trapped. Shangguan Qi exclaimed, "This divine dragon is almost comparable to a 2nd stage true god." The overflowing aura also contains the aura of the exploding dragon king's divine dragon core. After refining the blood essence attributes of the devil monarch, true god, and explosive dragon mountain range, Lin Shen's divine dragon forcefully broke through the 11th divine dragon vein and became a super divine dragon that was equivalent to the 2nd stage of the divine realm. Lin Shen stood on the mystical dragon, clenching his fists and smiling. What do you mean by surprise? Everyone, please translate for the translator. What is a surprise? I gave you a chance just now, but you didn't use it. Now you want to run away? Do you really think you're here to manage a brothel? Are you trying to leave with your pants up? Lin Shen's mocking laughter was like the whispers of a demon, causing everyone's scalps to go numb. The true gods' hearts were in turmoil, and their intestines were green with regret. This Lin Shen, he had hidden his true strength too well. This was more than just pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. This brat was simply a mantis shrimp eating an elephant. When all the divine sect teams attacked him, he didn't plan on letting anyone go. Shangguan Yin looked at Lin Shen. It was too shocking. Was this really a human that came from the 3rd dimension? It was already ridiculous for a sage to challenge a deity alone. He even destroyed a divine sword. He even forced back that battle maniac, Yu Tianwei. He even had 6 doppelgangers of the same level as his main body and a super divine dragon with endless potential. The most terrifying thing was still that war god's phantom. That punch that could overturn the universe had actually shattered a strand of sword law. Just how many trump cards did he have? She couldn't see through him. Even though Shangguan Yin had experienced a battle in the Realm Sea, she couldn't see through him at all. If she hadn't personally seen Lin Shen fainting due to the rejection of the dimension, it would be hard for her to believe that this was a battle that a 3rd dimension human could achieve. I'm not going to wait for my death here. The black-armored true god swung his axe, abandoning everyone in the team. His body burned with a bloody light, and his blood essence burst forth, instantly turning into a bloody light that tore through the void. The giant axe in the extreme prison, heavenly prison, instantly slashed down, intercepting the black-armored true god and splitting his divine body apart. Lin Shin stepped on a cloud and entered the chaotic battle, completely blocking their escape route. He slammed his 9 absolutes heaven-burning palm, and a fire dragon roared as it crashed into the black-armored true god, smashing him into countless attribute light balls. Rumble. A hurricane swept across. The moment the black-armored true god died, the opportunity of death shrouded every true god. Lin Chen's gaze turned, and when he looked at Lin Xingyu, the latter's 5 limbs trembled, and his scalp went numb. Lin Xingyu, don't come over. Rumble. There was a tremor, and another team appeared. It was the Bright God clan that had just arrived. Damn it, that little brat from the Dark Horse organization. Come out to die? Before the true god leader of the Bright God clan finished speaking, he was instantly dumbfounded when he saw the azure divine dragon dancing in the sky, especially the few black-robed, masked men beside it. They were the enemies that had attacked them. Lin Shun, Why do I feel like someone is saying that I'm handsome behind my back? The Bright God clan, true god. Goodbye. When the Bright God clan team left quietly, a voice transmission that shook the clouds came from the peak of Blood Fox Mountain. All the spots for today's Blood Fox Mountain Blood Pool are reserved by the Dark Horse organization. Trespassers will be treated as rat-tail juice. When the Bright God clan team heard this, their mouths twitched violently. Damn it, reserved? Be a human. In a certain continent in the divine realm, thousands of layers of snow piled up like mountains and rivers, beautiful and magnificent. At the peak of the snow mountain, a snow-bone divine lotus bloomed slightly, exuding jade-green energy. It circled around and was refined into the body of a youth in white on the lotus. Next to the youth was an extremely beautiful sword. The body of the sword was like jade, and it constantly grew 5-colored clouds that wrapped around the blade. A faint 9-colored divine light flickered on the body of the sword, and it was especially mysterious. Suddenly, the youth in white opened his eyes, and his golden pupils emitted a dazzling divine light. The youth in white looked in a certain direction and muttered to himself. The divine might that flashed by was incomparably fierce, domineering, and invincible. Could it be him? The youth in white's lips curled into a cold smile. Back then, in order to search for the Scarlet God sash, I stayed in the lower realm for a long time and forcefully lowered my dimension to become a 3-dimensional human. This gave this fellow an opportunity to meet me. I didn't expect that he would actually head to the divine realm and deliver the Scarlet God sash to me. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The 5-colored sword trembled slightly, as if it sensed something. The youth in white looked at his sword and smiled casually. Do you think the same? Boom! The cloud spun into a whirlpool, and a voice transmission came from the sky. Xing Chun, why did you wake up? Just a small matter. Don't be distracted. You are now at the peak of the reincarnation sacred stage. Focus on your cultivation. I will personally stimulate a small portion of your divine blood. Borrowing the power of the divine lotus, I will help you cross multiple quasi-god stages in one go and become a god. Yes, the youth in white entered a state of cultivation again, and his golden pupils exuded a power that could destroy the world. If 4-dimensional beings wanted to stay in the 3rd dimension for a long time, they would have to forcefully lower their dimension and integrate into the 3rd dimension. For example, the Wuji old man would be discovered and even attacked by the 3-dimensional human race. The youth in white had done something similar before. He had even fought with Lin Shun. This person was Lin Xingchen, the man who was called the number 1 genius in the divine realm in the prophecy. Chapter 1888. A large number of elemental light balls floated above the Blood Fox Mountain. Lin Shun stepped into the air and looked at one of the extreme prison, heavenly prison, that was torn open. He clicked his tongue in wonder. As expected of the prince of the Taichu divine kingdom, he does have some trump cards. He self-detonated his subordinates and used the divine kingdom imperial jade seal to escape with his bloodline's secret technique after I destroyed it. Shangguan Ying, the spy in the Shangguan family, was ordered to self-detonate by the fifth prince to cover his escape. In the end, he tore open a crack in the extreme prison, heavenly prison, and escaped. This was something that Lin Shun did not expect. After all, the divine world was still full of experts and had a strong foundation. Shangguan Yun's expression was particularly serious. That's right, the Taichu divine kingdom would definitely know about Lin Shun after the fifth prince escaped. A seventh-level saint with so many secrets, and most importantly, he did not have a powerful background. It would be difficult for him not to be arranged. What he had to face next was unimaginable. However, when Shangguan Yun looked at Lin Shun, he was completely nonchalant and did not seem to care at all. Shangguan Yun pondered for a moment and said, "Aren't you afraid? You should know very well what kind of people you will provoke after he escapes." Lin Shun shrugged and said, "Because I don't want to pretend anymore. I've laid my cards on the table. It's not that they're too strong. It's just that Brother Chun doesn't want to play anymore." Shangguan Yun was stunned. "Your purpose is," Lin Shun smiled, "dominating the world. I came to the fourth dimension to overturn the divine world." Shangguan Yun looked at him in a daze, unable to calm down for a long time. Lin Shun looked at the fourth extreme prison, heavenly prison. At this moment, there was only one person left in the extreme prison, heavenly prison. Don't kill me." Lian Xingyu was suppressed by the extreme prison, heavenly prison, and quickly begged for mercy. He looked at Shangguan Qi as if he was asking for help. Lin Shin stepped into the air and looked at Shangguan Qi playfully. He said indifferently, "Miss Shangguan Qi, how is it? Do you have an explanation?" Shangguan Qi clenched her teeth and said, "Why are you asking me?" Lin Shin smiled and said, "Aren't you having an affair with him? Just now, when your sister was talking about her fiancé, you were as anxious as a rabbit in heat." Shang Guanqi was so angry that her neck turned red. What did he mean by a rabbit that was discovered after being in heat? Shang Guanqi glanced at Lian Xingyu. Lian Xingyu hurriedly said, for the sake of our friendship, please talk to Lin Shun. No, please talk to Boss Lin Shun and ask him to give us a way out. The Lian family will definitely be grateful to the Shangguan family and repay their kindness. Lian Xingyu's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had even decided that as long as he could escape, he would report Lin Shin's whereabouts to all the higher-ups of the Lian clan. A seventh-level saint fighting against a divine realm expert, which was equivalent to a clone of the main body, and shaking a wisp of sword Dao law with a saint realm expert. If any of these terrifying battle records were to be reported, it would be enough for the Lian clan, or even the big shots of the Lian clan, to take action. Lin Shin laughed mockingly. "Oh, you two even have a friendship? What kind of friendship?" "I, Lin Shun, am the best at making friends with people." Shang Guanqi had indeed looked forward to Lian Xingyu, but when she thought of what he had done just now, she still said for the sake of the Shangguan family, "Lin Shun, can you spare him?" Lian Xingyu was overjoyed to hear that. Lin Shun nodded and smiled very innocently. "No, Lian Xingyu." "Lin Shun, you mother of asterisk her." Boom! A dragon claw crushed down, and a large area of space and time stagnated. Lian Xingyu was crushed into a cloud of blood mist. Lin Shun clicked his tongue in wonder. "I didn't expect that the dragon claw of the Archean dragon could even stop the curved space and time of the four-dimensional universe. With a sudden claw, your head will explode." Shang Guanqi, Shang Guanyin, Lin Shin even had doubts about their doubts. What's wrong? What happened? Even Shangguan Yun's mouth couldn't help but twitch. She didn't understand what Lin Shin was doing. "Didn't you say you spared him? Why are you still?" Lin Shin said in all seriousness. "That's right. It was your sister who spared him. But what does it have to do with me? I just want to kill him." Shang Guanqi, "No, since you insist on killing him, then why did you ask?" Shang Guanyin's beautiful eyes turned. She seemed to understand what Lin Shen meant. It was as if he was telling them that he, Lin Shen, didn't need to watch the Shangwan family do things. Judging from the trump cards he showed today, and with his divine dragon by his side, even if they didn't save Lin Shen that day at the blasted Dragon King mountain range, those true gods probably couldn't threaten his life. The two sisters were not important to him at all. What savior? It was all just a polite greeting. Lin Shen activated his doppelganger and used his movement technique to move around and collect all the elemental light balls. This time, the battle was fruitful. It was a bountiful harvest. Lin Shen destroyed a bunch of 9th-grade sacred artifacts and quasi-divine artifacts, and killed all the teams from the Arcane sect. Even if he used the God Slayer talent, it was still worth it. Host has received 200 billion high-tier sacred essence, 120 billion high-tier sacred health points, 100,000 high-tier sacred spiritual energy, 10,000 sacred talent points, 50,000 high-tier strengthening points. Host has opened a special attribute treasure chest. Received 10 million high-tier sacred heavenly axiom points. Host has opened a special attribute treasure chest. Received 200 million mid-tier set essence. Host has opened a top-tier talent treasure chest. Received permanent top-tier orange-grade talent fragment. Ultimate heaven-defying 5 out of 6. When Lin Shen scanned the battlefield, his harvest was exploding. His set essence began to fly all the way. The snowball had begun to roll. Based on Lin Shen's current cultivation, although the attributes dropped from killing a first-stage true god were abundant, there were very few top-tier attribute treasure chests. However, Yu Tianwei's broken arm had even dropped an ultimate heaven-defying talent fragment. The greater the difference between the host's cultivation and the enemy's cultivation, the more insane the attributes dropped. The most important thing in today's battle is that I personally experienced the sword with the Great Dao Law. According to Shangwan Yun, it wasn't even a complete Sword Dao Law, but just a strand of Sword Dao Law. Just a strand of Sword Dao Law was enough to instantly kill most second-stage Divine Realm experts. Perhaps even third-stage Divine Realm experts wouldn't dare to take it head-on. Lin Shen pondered for a moment. His current cultivation was still insufficient. Facing the power of the Great Dao Law, Lin Shen could only use the Godhead and his strongest killing move, the Golden Battle God set. Just now, Lin Shen had to use the Battle God set's ultimate right arm to take that sword. What's that? Suddenly, Lin Shen was stunned. An attribute treasure chest shining with a green divine light was floating in the air. It was dropped by the black divine sword that Lin Shen had destroyed just now. Lin Shen had never seen an attribute treasure chest with a green divine light before. Could it be? His heart raced. When Lin Shen reached out to grab it, boom! Green light shone brightly and dazzlingly. When the green attribute treasure chest opened, a pair of green wings like a dancing phoenix spread out slightly and floated in front of Lin Shen. Congratulations, host. You've received a set component treasure chest. Upon opening, you'll receive King of Speed, Ultimate Wind God set component, Wind God Wings. Lin Shen's mouth opened slightly. King of Speed, Wind God set. Chapter 1889. Lin Shen took the pair of green light wings. A faint wind swirled around them as they lay in Lin Shen's palm. The first feeling Lin Shen had when he took it was light. This pair of green light wings was as light as a feather. It was actually a part of the Wind God set that was directly dropped. It was not a production blueprint, but a finished product. The surprise came too suddenly. Lin Shen was ecstatic. This is what I call refreshing. Damn it, what was that at the sacred boundary? Forging and manufacturing at the drop of a hat. Isn't it better to just drop it? I can wear it when it charges, and wear it when I fight. This set, I feel great wearing it. King of Speed, Wind God set part, Wind God Wings. With a flap of the wings, you can move through 4 dimensions and cross planes. Godspeed is the strongest, transcending dimensions. Current Wind God Wings charging, 0%. Note, The speed of the extreme wind god set depends on the host's cultivation and charging value. The wind god wings that Lin Chun obtained could be used as long as he charged it with the set essence. Host transferred intermediate set essence. Gold War God set charging 1%, 2%. Lin Chun used 400 million points of intermediate set essence, and the War God set was restored to 2%. 1% of the charge was already enough to sweep through the sacred boundary. How strong could 2% be? And not bad. After this battle, after the War God set is 2% charged, there are still 300 million points of set essence left. As for the remaining set essence, Lin Chun planned to use it according to the situation. Lin Chun looked up. The blood fog on Blood Fox Mountain was getting thinner and thinner, and the blood pool's true appearance was gradually revealed. During the time when Lin Chun was collecting attribute light balls, no one dared to approach the blood pool of Blood Fox Mountain. Damn it, who would dare to go? When the remaining true gods approached the peak of the mountain, they more or less sensed the terrifying battle. Those who dared to plot against the Shangwan residents were all laid to rest. The grass on their graves was already 3 feet high. Although the blood pool was good, one had to be alive to enjoy it. Boom, boom, boom. The space trembled, and the blood pool of Blood Fox Mountain was officially opened. The boiling blood pool bubbled and emitted sharp cries of the god fox. It was as if a god fox was lying there. The closer one got to the blood pool, the stronger the god fox's aura and pressure. The people from the Shangwan residence walked to the side of the blood pool as if they were in a dream. Are we going to monopolize the blood pool of blood? This is too fake. Only our Shangwan residents? There are over a dozen divine sect teams, but none of them dare to come up. Could this be the legendary outshining the others? Everyone from the Shangwan family looked at Lin Chun at the same time. He still had that frivolous look on his face, and his cultivation was still at the 7th level of the Saint Realm. But at this moment, his image had undergone an earth-shattering change in everyone's eyes. This youth was a real monster, was a monster this, of a person, was of the sky of God of blood. This was in the past. This was something that none of them had expected. Lin Chun put his hands behind his head. When he walked past, he smiled casually. What are you all in a daze for? It's more interesting to reserve the entire hot spring. Lin Chun is right. The late-stage quasi-god Shangwan Xiao cupped his hands respectfully. His eyes were filled with respect for Lin Chun. The Shangwan residents couldn't be blamed for looking down on Lin Chun. After all, there was no monster in the world that could defeat a true god at the sage stage. Moreover, he could defeat a group of them. Not to mention him, even his clone had the battle strength of a true god. A sage clone could defeat a true god? If they didn't see it with their own eyes, who would believe it? Even if they wrote a novel, they wouldn't dare to write it so blindly. Shangwan Yin looked at her sister and said indifferently, "You going too? I've already received a similar energy baptism in the First Realm Sea. The effect won't be great again. You still have a chance." Shangwan Qi said seriously, "Yes, sister. I won't let you down." Shangwan Yin nodded slightly. "It's fine as long as you're alive." Everyone began to enter the blood pool. In an instant, the blood pool emitted intense blood smoke. The people of the Shangwan residence didn't want to miss a single second. The blood-red hot pool was suffused with a dark red viscous energy. This was the residual energy after the blood of the godly fox was melted. It was condensed after absorbing the energy of heaven and earth. The deeper one went into the blood pool, the more vigorous the energy. However, if one's cultivation was not enough, if they forcefully entered the central region of the blood pool, they would only explode from the energy of the blood pool. Reincarnation, sage stage cultivation was only at the periphery of the blood pool. Quasi-gods could enter the periphery of the central region. Only Lin Chun and Shangwan Qi could enter the central region. At the center of the blood pool, Lin Chun soaked in the blood pool and couldn't help but praise. The temperature of this hot spring is really not bad. Hey, Miss Shangwan Qi, who would soak in a hot spring like you? Why are you wearing clothes? Come, let me help you take it off. I'm not only good at making friends with people, I'm also good at taking off people's clothes. And why are you running so fast? You're not fun at all. I'm the one who's at a disadvantage if you see me naked. After deliberately sending Shangguan Qi away, Lin Chen sat cross-legged in the blood pool. The pure energy of the godly fox blood pool kept flowing into Lin Chen's body. He activated his cultivation technique, and like an endless vortex, he crazily swallowed a huge amount of energy. As soon as he activated the Tai Sky technique, all of Lin Chen's Saint acupoints were opened. He swallowed the endless energy of the blood pool and integrated it into his limbs and bones. Finally, it condensed in his Saint acupoints. Boom! Not only the energy of the blood pool, but terrifying Saint power essence also emerged from between Lin Chen's eyebrows. It was like a fish dragon spreading and entering the hexagonal starlight around him. The starlight became even more dazzling. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The phantom divine light descended, and Lin Chen's 6 clones arrived. They activated their cultivation technique and absorbed the energy of the godly fox blood pool, just like the main body. Shangguan Qi witnessed this scene from afar and opened her red lips slightly. Could it be that his clones can also cultivate with him? The main body could also grow while the clones cultivated? How monstrous was he? After killing so many true gods and quasi-gods, my attributes have reached a new height. I can use this godly fox blood pool to break through to Saint Stage 8, Sacred Heart. Lin Chen was fully immersed in cultivation. His clones were all activated, and it was equivalent to 7 Lin Chen's cultivating. It was especially powerful. The energy of the godly fox blood pool and the high-grade saint essence were both refined at the same time. The 71st saint acupoint in his heart began to glow with a radiance that could cover the stars and the moon. A hexagonal starlight bloomed in Lin Chen's heart, and brand new saint power surged in like a dragon. The Sacred Heart was about to break through. Once the Sacred Heart entered this realm, the recovery ability would be greatly enhanced. If the Sacred Heart was not hit, the saint would not die. An ordinary Sacred Heart was naturally not enough in the Sacred King and Reincarnation Sacred Stage. However, Lin Chen's saint power was as powerful as the divine power. If he broke through to the Sacred Heart realm, he would be able to unleash this realm to an almost heaven-defying extent. This time, how many saint acupoints could Lin Chen break through? Chapter 1890. The day after Blood Fox Mountain opened. North region of Star State, Taichu Divine Kingdom. A piece of news shocked the Taichu Divine Kingdom. Everyone from the lords to the commoners were defeated. Divine Kingdom tabloid. Shocking. According to reliable news, a saint has appeared in Blood Fox Mountain. He can kill deity realm experts and shock the world. Shock the world? More like impotence. Even if you want to brag, you have to be more reliable. Is this a goddamn saint killing a god living in a dream? Divine Kingdom news. Shocking. The 5th Prince led a team of Imperial Guards and returned from Divine Fox Mountain. The rumor of a saint killing a deity has been confirmed. Shocking. That saint has a divine dragon? Shocking. The saint of Blood Fox Mountain defeated Yu Tianwei. Shocking. None of the divine sects on Blood Fox Mountain reached the peak. Shocking. Stop being shocked. Hurry up and report it to the lords and his majesty. The entire Taichu Divine Kingdom was shocked. There were already signs of an expert coming out of seclusion in the Divine Kingdom. In the divine world, the forces that could be called divine kingdoms were all experts. In some divine kingdoms, one lord was a deity. In a god kingdom, there were signs of the myriad of gods. It was fine if one had a background above an ancient sect, but if one had no background and was hunted down by a divine kingdom, that was unimaginable. Not only the Taichu Divine Kingdom, but the Yu family in the south region of Star State, the Song family in the north region, the Bright Divine Sect, and so on. When the news spread to the upper echelons of the divine sects, all the deities were shocked. The Yu family. In a secret hall, The Yu family patriarch looked down at his unconscious granddaughter with a gloomy and cold expression. The white-haired Yu family patriarch glanced at the little girl in white beside him and said coldly, "Are you sure the person who injured your senior sister is a three-dimensional human?" The little girl in white nodded slightly. "I'm sure. This child has too many secrets. He's suspected to be an orphan left behind by some powerful force in the divine world." The Yu family patriarch opened the jade slip. When he looked at it again, his dry eyes narrowed, and a sharp, killing intent burst out. A clone technique that's difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake, the pure strength to shatter the divine sword, challenging a true god as a saint. The white-clothed little girl's seemingly calm expression revealed the lingering fear of surviving a calamity. She earnestly said, "I've already informed the sect. They will send people to investigate." No, this isn't just about the Archaean sect. The Yu family's ancestor pushed open the door to the secret room and transmitted his voice. In this twisted world, the voice of the Yu family's ancestor echoed in the secret rooms of the various families. "Gods of the Yu family, heed my command. Apart from the Hall of Elders and the Patriarch, everyone shall follow me to Blood Fox Mountain. Target, three-dimensional human Lin Chun. Everyone move out." A terrifying storm was brewing in the various regions of the Star Continent. All the ancient sects that participated in the operation of the Blood Fox Mountain had more or less received the news from the Blood Fox Mountain. As long as they heard that the three-dimensional human race with no power had a shocking secret, and that there was a suspected sage who could fight against a true god, they were all boiling with excitement. Some divine sects chose to seal the news, some chose to publicly ally with each other, and some secretly sent out experts. No matter what the reason was, in just 4 short days, a large number of supreme experts had gathered outside the Blood Fox Mountain. Wong, the sword light of the noble spirit, slashed down from the sky. A sword god in green robes who was standing on a river of sword chi, and whose sword was connected to the gods appeared. He appeared with 2 gods and looked down at the Blood Fox Mountain below with narrowed eyes. The Blood Fox Mountain. Back then, when the divine fox fell, there were so many taboos that blocked external objects. Even people as strong as us can't easily break through its barrier. Once the energy goes berserk, it's no small matter. Bright God Sect, Sword God Jiang Bailey. The blue-robed true god who had led the Bright God Sect's team previously stood beside the Sword God and said respectfully, "Big Brother Jiang, that little brat is really strange. He has a doppelganger and is able to fight against us with a sage cultivation. He definitely has a shocking secret. If we take him down, it'll only be beneficial to the Bright God Sect." Jiang Bailey shook his head and laughed. "Let's wait and see." Boom, boom, boom. The sonic boom was like a dragon, whistling without end. Dozens of dark green tornadoes swept over. A white-haired old man lazily floated in the sky, lying in the center of the storm. He had white hair and a youthful face. When his seemingly lazy eyes looked at the Blood Fox Mountain, they occasionally flashed. Jiang Bailey frowned. "I didn't expect that even this old man would come." Bang! There was a sudden explosion. A blazing yellow saber light was as bright as the sun, cutting through the void. The golden-armored saber god with a feathered crown on his head and a saber at his waist appeared. He was as cold as an eagle. He crossed his arms and looked down at the Blood Fox Mountain with a sharp gaze. Suddenly, he raised his hand and pressed down. The saber light poured out and turned into a disc-like saber aura, crushing down on the Blood Fox Mountain with an overwhelming force. The golden saber light was mixed with saber will. It cut through the blood fog lingering around the Blood Fox Mountain. However, the saber aura was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no movement at all. Jiang Bailey said indifferently, "Don't waste your energy. The Divine Fox is known for controlling many kinds of great path laws. Even if you and I work together, we might not be able to break through this blood fog barrier. If you want to enter, you have to enter directly." The golden-armored saber god glanced at him. "I didn't expect you to come too. After the last battle, I obtained another saber technique. Perhaps you're no longer my match now. Zhang Bailey said likewise. The golden armored saber god looked around. Let's work together. Zhang Bailey smiled indifferently. Sure. Another beam of divine light shot towards them. 1, 5, 10. There were as many as 12 true gods who had arrived at the Blood Fox Mountain. All the true gods were waiting for the blood fog of the Blood Fox Mountain to recede again. When the energy of the blood pool receded, the blood fog tide would open again. Boom! At this time, the team with the most powerful aura appeared from the east. The true gods' hearts skipped a beat. The people from the Taichu Divine Kingdom had arrived. The leader was a white-robed ancestor with a long beard. He had an immortal aura and a transcendent attitude, as if he was an immortal who was playing in the mortal world. Behind him, there were actually 8 true gods. Each of them had a powerful and domineering aura, and their divine power shook the heavens and earth. They had a suppressive aura. The 5th prince of the Taichu Divine Kingdom, who had been beaten black and blue by Lin Shun, was also there. Before the true gods of the Taichu Divine Kingdom expressed their stance, the Blood Fox Mountain suddenly shook. Boom, boom, boom. The earth shook, the mountains shook, and the space trembled. The golden armored saber god frowned. The blood fog dissipated so quickly. Zhang Bailey suddenly said, "No, this is the phenomenon of a breakthrough." As soon as he finished speaking, a 9-colored aurora that covered the sky rotated in the sky. The curved world was full of 9-colored starlight sprinkling on the ground. Heaven and earth trembled, and countless energy began to be absorbed. The phenomenon actually surpassed the blood fog of the Blood Fox Mountain. Tide. Many true gods were moved. They actually sensed signs of saint power from that 9-colored aurora. What kind of terrifying saint was there to have such a heaven-defying phenomenon when he broke through? At the same time, the divine world, the northernmost region, in a certain independent realm, in a palace, there were 2 beautiful girls. They were devastatingly beautiful, and their temperaments were 1 in a million. They surrounded the tall and beautiful girl like orioles and swallows and asked curiously. One of the girls in a palace dress asked curiously, Ling Shuang, other than being handsome, having a specialty, being able to last for a long time, and being the most handsome guy in the crowd the moment he does something, what other characteristics does this master have? The tall and beautiful girl pondered seriously. Oh, I think there's more. For example, my master likes to show off. Show off? What kind of show? A show that you can imagine, in the most ridiculous way possible. Chapter 1891. Inside Blood Fox Mountain, Shangwan Yun's face was filled with unconcealable shock as she looked at the blood pool that was about to dry up. A saint actually drained all the energy in the core area of the Divine Fox blood pool. When the Divine Fox blood pool started to dry up, the raging flames buried under Blood Fox Mountain started to surge. Shangwan Yun seemed to have sensed this power, and she looked in the direction of Blood Fox Mountain in shock. Oh no, this guy has absorbed too much energy from the blood pool. The remaining nomological energy of the Divine Fox Mountain is starting to riot. Shangwan Yun realized the seriousness of the problem. She waved her hand. Everyone retreat first. The people from the Shangwan residence who had been baptized by the blood pool were the first to retreat. Shangwan Qi flew over and pointed at Lin Shun. He said seriously, "Sister, what about him?" Shangwan Yin shook her head. He has now entered a state of wholeheartedly breaking through the bottleneck. Unless we attack forcefully, we won't be able to move him. Let's leave first. I've already sent him a voice transmission to remind him. The Shangwan sisters were the last to retreat from Blood Fox Mountain and hide in the blood mist. Inside the blood pool, the 6 illusionary clones were like stars supporting the moon as they surrounded Lin Chen's main body. He slowly floated up from the blood pool with his eyes closed, but his aura was even more domineering. The 9-colored aurora vortex in the sky suddenly expanded. The hexagonal star in his heart was polished to a holy light, and streams of jade dragon-like saint power flew out of Lin Chen's body. The saint power had tempered his bones until they were like glass, indestructible, and the toughness of his saint body was close to that of a true god. The saint power tempered the saint acupoint in his heart like a storm again and again, polishing its breakthrough opportunity to the extreme. The next moment, a look of determination flashed across Lin Chen's face. The 71st Saint Acupoint, open. The Saint power turned into a dragon. An endless holy light poured into his heart. Chi! Boom! The mountains and rivers trembled, and the wind and clouds changed. Bang! 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 An unprecedented explosion of holy power reverberated within the nine-colored aurora vortex as it was drawn in endlessly. Outside Blood Fox Mountain, under the sky covered by the nine-colored aurora vortex, the aftermath of the Saint Power tide burst forth and surged. The true god's expressions were solemn and shocked. This Saint Power was equivalent to divine power. Jiang Bailey's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He said coldly, "The holy light can break through life and death, separate yin and yang, and create the saint heart. This is a sign that the 71st Saint Point is about to break through." This kid actually caused such a terrifying phenomenon when he's breaking through to the Sacred Heart realm. The golden armored saber god nodded solemnly and said, "What a solid foundation. Where exactly did this person come from? I have never heard of him before. How is this possible?" The fifth prince felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and he was stunned on the spot. He stared blankly at the increasingly terrifying phenomenon in the sky, and he seemed to have lost his soul. The fifth prince boasted that he was a peerless genius within the divine kingdom, even the divine sex. He would be considered one of the best. But in front of Lin Chun, all of his pride seemed to be unable to withstand a single blow. It was like comparing a firefly to the bright moon. What kind of tempering did one have to go through in order to have this kind of accumulation? He had only broken through to the 8th stage of the Sage Realm, but the phenomenon was already so strong. The Grand Patriarch of the Taichu Divine Kingdom had a cold look in his eyes. Intense greed flashed in the depths of his eyes as he said in a deep voice, "Without a doubt, he's a genius. Our Taichu Divine Kingdom must take this child's secret for ourselves." Rumble. Waves of air rolled, and violent winds raged. The nine-colored vortex of holy light expanded again. He has broken through to the 71st Saint Point. He's rushing to the 72nd Saint Point. What a solid foundation and accumulation. What exactly has this three-dimensional human experienced? He actually polished his foundation to such a level. While the older generation of true gods were exclaiming, the nine-colored vortex of holy light exploded again. Boom, boom, boom. The true gods trembled with fear. 5 Saint Points had been broken in a row. In Blood Fox Mountain, all the energy in the blood pool had been sucked dry by Lin Chun, and it was completely exhausted. The viscous energy in the blood pool disappeared, and it turned into a pool of clear water, so clear that one could see the bottom. 76th, 77th, 78th Saint Points break. Lin Chen's cold shout was like a dragon's roar, stirring up layers of waves. The entire Blood Fox Mountain was trembling. The holy light in Lin Chen's heart soared, and 3 more hexagonal stars appeared. This energy, which was enough to baptize more than a dozen first-level true gods, was absorbed into Lin Chen's Saint Points. Adding on a massive amount of attribute points, he rose to a higher level in one go. The feeling of monopolizing the whole place is really not bad. It's like one person killing a brothel with one spear. Awesome. Lin Chen abruptly opened his eyes, causing the space around him to tremble. An invincible aura that looked down on the world like a mad dragon was born, rising up from Lin Chen's body. The last 2 Saint Points break for me. The 9-colored vortex of holy light that covered the stars and the moon suddenly retracted, condensing into the space 100 feet around Lin Chun and blooming in an instant. The nine-colored aurora exploded like a firework under the night sky. It was magnificent, and boundless holy power circulated around Lin Chen's body. Boom, boom, boom. The entire Blood Fox Mountain was thoroughly shaken to the point that the earth quaked and the mountain swayed. A great amount of blood mist was actually dispersed by the final burst of pressure. At this moment, it was as if a nine-colored wave under the sea of stars had dispersed the blood fog, and the true gods could vaguely see the figure in the center of the holy light. He walked in the air, and the holy light was dense. His whole body was releasing an invincible battle intent, as if he could support the heaven and earth. Lin Chen's heart was shrouded in a layer of seven-colored holy light. This is the Saint Heart realm. He broke through to the Saint Heart realm in one go, as expected of the blood of the fox god that could baptize more than a dozen true gods. At this moment, 160 saint points were shining on Lin Chen's body. 80 body saint points plus 80 greater 1 saint points. In the Saint Heart realm, every open saint point would increase one's basic holy power by 10%, and 10 saint points would increase one's total holy power by one-fold. Lin Chen's talent and mental cultivation method could increase the holy power of his saint points by 4 times. This meant that when he opened one saint point, he would obtain 50% of his basic holy power. 2 saint points would double his basic holy power. 10 saint points would increase the holy power of others by 2 folds, but Lin Chen's had increased it by 5 folds. When he was at the Saint Heart realm, Lin Chen's total holy power could explode out with 286 million venerable energy. At the Saint Heart realm, 5 times was equivalent to 1,430 million venerable energy. This power was enough to shake an early-stage second heaven divine realm expert. An 8th heaven divine realm expert could rival an early-stage second heaven divine realm expert. The word monster was not enough to describe it. It was more like a monster's ancestral grave had been blown up, and a monster's ancestor had been born. The higher the realm of the true gods, the more terrifying the gap is. I wonder if I can still fight at higher realms after I become a true god. Lin Chen smiled knowingly. Before he could feel this new power, the entire Blood Fox Mountain exploded with a bang. Crack! 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 A shocking crack appeared on the Blood Fox Mountain, and fire burned for thousands of miles. The Blood Fox Mountain was burned into nothingness, and it became a disaster in an instant. Streams of hellish lava shot out from the ground and soared into the sky. Lin Chen's eyes narrowed, and he instantly used his movement technique to dodge. The lava's energy was not to be underestimated, and it exuded the smell of the great Tao. It contained a destructive aura that was enough to burn a true god to death. Lin Chen had just broken through to the next realm, and he was already in danger. Chapter 1892. A shocking crack appeared on Blood Fox Mountain, and terrifying molten lava shot out. The sea of fire shocked the gods outside Blood Fox Mountain so much that they hurriedly retreated. This is the remnant power of law of that dead fox god. Something happened to this kid. He's gone too far. He drained the energy of Blood Fox Mountain, and without the suppression of the blood pool, he triggered the remnant power of law of Blood Fox Mountain. Let's see how he escapes later. This is called courting death, courting death. The gods looked like they were watching a show. Although Lin Chen's figure was blocked by the blood mist again, and they couldn't see his sorry figure directly, the gods seemed to be enjoying it. It definitely wouldn't be that easy for this kid to escape. He had to race against time to escape, or else he would be burned to ashes by the molten lava of the fire law. However, the blood mist in Blood Fox Mountain was so thick that even a second-level true god couldn't see through it. If one flew in the air, they would fall into the blood mist and eventually get lost in it. They would only keep going in circles. The only way was to slowly descend the mountain like the Shangwan residence and leave the area where the blood mist was thinner. However, with the terrifying molten lava everywhere, It was easier said than done to leave the mountain. If it was ordinary molten lava, a true god could soak in it for a day. However, this was molten lava made from the fire law of the 3,000 Great Tao laws. It had accumulated for 10,000 years and was no small matter. At the foot of Blood Fox Mountain, the Shangguan residents and the others had just retreated when they witnessed the terrifying scene. Shangguan Chi frowned and said, "Sister." Shangguan Yin raised her hand. "Let's wait and see. With his methods, we'll only be adding to the trouble if we help." If something happened to Lin Shun, the Shangguan residents would lose the opportunity to get him. Moreover, the current situation was extremely dangerous. Shangguan Yin thought to herself, even if he escapes from the riot at Blood Fox Mountain, there's still a group of true gods from the various divine sects and divine kingdoms waiting for him outside. With so many forces eyeing his secret, I can't protect him with my relationship with the Shangguan residents. The other divine sects might be afraid of the Shangguan residents' power, but the Taichu divine kingdom wouldn't give them face. A divine kingdom would be established and would never be destroyed. Every divine kingdom was in existence second only to the ancient giant forces of the divine realm. However, it was as if the situation was getting worse and worse. The earth cracked and lava erupted. Boom, boom, boom. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and the wind danced wildly. Spiraling blades that were hundreds of feet long flickered with gray light, sweeping up a storm and suppressing the heavens. Like a lightning dragon, the world-destroying lightning flashed across the sky, tearing through the void and crossing the horizon. In an instant, Lin Shun was at the center of countless apocalyptic disasters. Lin Shun couldn't help but shake his head in amazement when he felt the violent energy in the air and the flashing lightning. You're so King handsome that you get struck by lightning. 3 incomplete law energies. How much do you want me to die? He had just broken through to the next realm, and he had already received such a huge gift. Even if someone at the second level of the divine realm was faced with such a situation, there was an extremely great risk that they would lose their lives. There was a high chance that they would die with hatred and have a tragic end. However, Lin Shun was not flustered at all. His face was even calm as he smiled playfully. Lin Shun raised his head and looked at the violent thunderstorm. He opened his arms and laughed loudly. Unfortunately, your brother Chin's strength is that the more dangerous the situation, the better. With that said, Lin Shun actually leaped up and jumped into the rolling lava outside the mountain. Shangguan Chi's beautiful face turned pale as she cried out, "It's the storm and thunderstorm formed by the law of wind and law of thunder." Shangguan Yun's face darkened immediately. It was completely a hopeless situation, surrounded by multiple remnant law energies and shrouded by layers of blood mist. One could not sense anything too far away. Even if they wanted to use movement techniques, they did not know when they would be hit. Not good. Let's avoid the attack first. The remnant law energies are too terrifying. The expressions of the 20 true gods changed slightly as they turned into divine lights and fled 100 miles away. This power was too terrifying. If they were sucked into it, they would be in trouble too. As expected of the divine fox, it controlled many Tao laws. Even after death, its power is still terrifying. If it still exists in the world, none of the true gods here will be able to leave. Haha, how is he going to kill his way out in the face of so many law energies? Even if he does, he'll have to face us. Can a sage CK the heavens? The true gods were amazed by the power of the divine fox. At the same time, they began to be wary of each other. That's right, it was time to snatch the prey. Faced with such a difficult and hopeless situation, they concluded that Lin Shun had almost no chance of turning the tables. Even if he broke out of Blood Fox Mountain, he would have to face more than 20 true gods. Except for a few, almost all of them were second-tier divine realm. Lin Shun had no chance of winning at all. Therefore, the true gods' next competitors were most likely the true gods present. Jiang Bailey and the golden armored sword god looked at each other with tacit understanding. The other divine sex teams also looked at each other silently and reached a temporary agreement to join forces. Kaboom! Bang! 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 The storm roared and the thunder exploded. The incomplete law of lightning swept through the surroundings, shattering the sky and collapsing the space within Blood Fox Mountain. With such power, even the true gods who could only see the situation outside couldn't help but change their expressions slightly. Boom! 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 Fierce winds blew, and wind blades slashed over, rolling up hundreds of layers of fire waves. Terrifying lava covered the sky and earth, sweeping up like huge waves. The high temperature that could burn mountains and boil seas instantly filled the world, igniting this space. The true gods were forced to retreat once again. The wind increases the intensity of the fire, and the fire borrows the power of the thunder, making it even more ferocious. 3 types of remnant laws can actually cooperate with each other to produce such power. It's too powerful. Even if I'm in it, it'll be difficult for me to escape. The old true gods seem to have seen the divine fox's peerless talent in controlling thunder, fire, and hurricanes when it was still alive, making even the true gods fear it. The Taichu Divine Kingdom's patriarch sneered. This kid will definitely die. After the destruction of these remnant laws, even if he has many trump cards, he will have to use all of them again. A trace of viciousness and jealousy flashed across the 5th prince's handsome face as he said ferociously, "Let's see how he struggles this time. Even if he can rush out, he will be beaten up by the true gods of my divine kingdom." Lin Shun was about to be beaten up. The palms of the Shangwan clan and the others who had retreated far away were sweating. No matter what, Lin Shin was still their benefactor who had helped them escape danger and receive the baptism of the blood pool of Blood Fox Mountain. If he was killed just like that, it would be the moment to witness the end of a legend. No one wanted to witness such a cruel scene. Boom! A massive wave of molten lava was swept up by the wind laws of wind, and it surged toward Su Yangyi. The huge wave of lava was thousands of feet tall, and wherever it passed, it burned all around. Suddenly, Shangwan Qi and the others exclaimed, "No, what's that?" All the true gods looked over. There seemed to be a ray of light appearing in the blood mist that was washed away by the lava wave. He saw that a figure was actually gliding within the monstrous waves of molten lava that raged up into the sky. It was Lin Shun. He was stepping on a sharp board condensed from azure dragon aura. He wore sunglasses, and his silver robe fluttered in the wind. His body was surrounded by an absolute defense of pure gold divine light. Not only was he not affected by the remnant laws of lightning, wind, and fire in the slightest, he was even able to glide above the enormous waves of lava with ease, dive straight down, and glide continuously. His movements were so graceful that they were like flowing water, and it was even to the extent that he drew a graceful arc in the air. At this moment, everyone in the Shangwan clan opened their mouths wide, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Shangwan Qi covered her red lips. "Sister, I'm not dreaming, right?" Shangwan Yun's seemingly calm side profile was filled with unprecedented shock. Outside Blood Fox Mountain, the 5th prince was dumbfounded and lost his voice. F*CKU. You can do that? The 20 true gods looked as if they had been struck by lightning, and they all looked at Lin Shun as if they had seen a ghost. The sword god, Jiang Bailey, was so shocked that he muttered to himself, "Why is he so showy?" The golden armored sword god scratched his head and gasped. "I cracked." The patriarch of the Taichu Divine Kingdom felt his scalp go numb, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He's actually surfing on the lava? Surfing on the lava burning with the law of fire? Was this something a human could do? F*CK. He's so showy. Chapter 1893. Outside the Divine Forest Mountain Range, the Nine Yang's Divine Sect. Within the Divine Sect's territory. Whoosh! The clouds parted to reveal a handsome young man dressed in white standing on a five-colored cloud. He looked elegant and graceful as he slowly arrived at the peak of a mountain. He gazed affectionately at the woman in red among the group of beautiful women on the mountain peak and smiled elegantly. Ling, you said you wanted the man of your dreams to come to you on a five-colored cloud, so here I am. The female disciples were in an uproar as they looked at the white-robed young man with admiration. As one of the focal points, the red-clothed beauty was the most beautiful among the crowd. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. Ling, the white-robed young man said affectionately, "Are you willing to be with me and grow old together?" The woman in red said shyly, "I am willing." Rumble. With a loud sound, the aftermath of a thunderstorm appeared. Everyone was shocked, and when they looked closely, they were dumbfounded. In the direction of the distant Blood Fox Mountain, the magical laws of fire had turned into molten lava, and the magical laws of wind had turned into hurricanes that swept up huge waves of lava. On top of the monstrous waves of lava, a man was riding them. Even though they were far away, the young geniuses of the Nine Yang's divine sect could still feel the destructive aura. Heavens! 3 types of incomplete magical laws. What kind of heaven-defying disaster is this? Look, what's that? There's someone on top of the lava. That person has fluctuations of holy power. Damn, he's only a saint? He's actually riding on the magical laws of fire? Are my eyes playing tricks on me? He's so hot. The disciples of the Nine Yang's divine sect cried out in shock. The white-robed young man forced himself to calm down, then looked at the woman in red and smiled. "Linger, should we?" The woman in red stared at the figure in the center of the storm, and without turning her head, she suddenly said, "No, senior brother." Looking in the direction of the Blood Fox Mountain, the woman in red was filled with admiration and longing. The man of my dreams will definitely ride the wind and waves of the magical laws of fire. With the magical laws of fire as wind and the lightning as light, he will come to me. The woman in red said excitedly, "Senior brother, you can do it, right?" The white-robed young man. "Listen, is that even human? I'm having a mental breakdown." The white-clothed young master turned around angrily and cursed. "Mother of Cur, I'm not going after this girl anymore." Outside the Blood Fox Mountain, the sea of fire was blazing, and wind blades were slashing wildly. Streaks of lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the dumbfounded look on Deity's face. Moving swiftly in the thunderstorm created by the law of thunder, riding the wind, and breaking the waves in the lava created by the law of fire? Was this something a Saint Realm expert could do? No. He didn't even dare to think about it. Lin Shan stepped on the azure dragon Qi and was enveloped in the Taishi divine light. He was not flustered at all as he glided through the lava like flowing water. Boom, boom, boom. The thunderstorm roared, transforming into a thunder dragon that hacked down, stirring up magma. Lin Shan shifted his body to the side, as if he had already sensed the incoming wind blades. He dodged all of the incoming wind blades, and the torrential waves were unable to even touch a single strand of his clothes. His unruly laughter spread in all directions. Who is the most arrogant in the heavenly realm? I, Lin Shan, am the first. The people of the Shangwan residence stared at Lin Shan as if they had seen a ghost. He rushed all the way down the Blood Fox Mountain, as if he had the help of the gods. When Lin Shan rushed out of the area where the blood mist was the thickest, he stepped on the ground and leaped into the air. He used his movement technique and turned into countless bloody shadows. With Lin Shan's current cultivation, his movement technique could be considered as extremely fast, even in the four-dimensional heavenly realm. Unless there was a master controlling these 3 incomplete laws, it was impossible to catch up to Lin Shan with this chaotic energy wave. He rushed out. This kid is actually unharmed? So what if he rushed out? Deal with him. Beat him up and then snatch him away. Don't let him escape. Seal off his escape route. There are 3 incomplete laws chasing after him. We only need to seal off the front of him. Even if he burrows into the ground, I can still dig him out 20 true gods instantly erupted with an earth-shattering aura. All the true gods reached a temporary consensus, and that was to cripple Lin Chun first. Who asked you to be so arrogant? I'll break your legs. The true god realm was more terrifying as one progressed. A late-stage god realm could easily suppress an early-stage god realm cultivator. There were at least 4 late-stage god realm cultivators present. As for mid-stage god realm cultivators, there are 8 of them. In addition, when the true gods joined forces and focused their attacks on one point, their combat power far exceeded the effect of 1+1. It was extremely rare for 20 true gods to join forces. Even early-stage god realm cultivator couldn't withstand this attack at the same time. All the true gods were ready to attack. As long as Lin Chun completely rushed out of the Blood Fox Mountain, he would face an attack that could shatter mountains and rivers. On the other side of the Blood Fox Mountain, among the people of the Shangguan residence, Shangguan Yun suddenly said, "Qi, bring them away first." Shangguan Qi was stunned. "Sister, you can't be thinking of helping him, right?" There were 20 true gods present. Most of them were still second-stage god realm cultivators and were all famous experts of the various divine sects. They couldn't be compared to ordinary first-stage god realm cultivators at all, not to mention the fatal difference in numbers. No matter how strong his sister was, she couldn't turn the tide. However, Shangguan Yin revealed a smile for the first time. This kind of man has to owe us a favor. For creatures like men, we either beat them until they submit, sleep with them until they submit, or help them until they soften. If we can't beat them, we'll seduce them. If we can't seduce them, we'll help them to the end. Boom! Shangguan Yun transformed into an afterimage that shot into the sky and flashed away swiftly. Shangguan Qi was dumbfounded. It's over. His sister has gone crazy too. However, just as Shangguan Yun was about to move closer, boom, 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 the space was shaking. The sky was shaking. The dimension was distorting. A tremor that could shake the heavens and shatter the earth appeared out of nowhere and suddenly targeted the 20 true gods. What's going on? What a powerful and majestic pure power. Be careful. Something is coming out of the blood fog. My chi and blood are being suppressed. What kind of ferocious thing is this? The moment the true gods were moved, a true god immediately shouted, "Don't fall into his trap. Maybe this kid is bluffing and is deliberately coming for us. If we retreat, he might escape midway." Although he said so, he quietly retreated and let the other true gods take the lead while he retreated to the back. This skillful action was very cunning. Then, a huge shadow that covered the sky appeared in an instant. A strong wind blew instantly and completely blew away the blood fog. The true gods saw such a huge monster for the first time, and they were stunned. The powerful and thick elephant trunk swept up mountains and rivers, and the mighty elephant hooves stomped down, shattering the magma formed by the laws of fire. Hundreds and thousands of laws of wind attacked, but they couldn't even break through 1% of the elephant's defense. The thunder laws blasted on the elephant body that was thousands of feet tall, but they couldn't break through its defense. The elephant tusks that were as white as the moon exuded an ancient aura and were indestructible as it rushed over. On the divine elephant, there was also a divine dragon that was thousands of feet tall. Lin Chen stood on the dragon's head and laughed evilly. "Ambush your brother, Chen? Do you think I'll escape? Sorry, I always do things to the end. Today, I'll finish all of you." Chapter 1894. With his feet on the dragon's head, Lin Chun snapped his fingers. Life and death are nothing. If you're not convinced, then fight. Today, I only want to kill all of you or kill the forces behind you after killing all of you. 6 phantom divine lights descended, and the rune's energy plummeted. Consumed 35 million points of high-tier sacred rune energy, synchronized with the cultivation of all phantom clones. Oh no, it's actually a divine elephant. What's going on? The gods couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this. They were forced to launch an attack instantly, and all the attacks they had prepared earlier were instantly destroyed. Bright Moon God. The patriarch of the Taichu divine kingdom was the first to release his divine power. A bright moon rose in the sky, piling up thousands of layers of moonlight and condensing into a gate. It brewed divine power that could destroy the world and shot out a beam of bright moon divine light. The true gods of the divine kingdom immediately used the same cultivation technique and poured their divine power into the gate. The power instantly became the strongest. 7 fragments, absolute blade. The golden armored sword god waved his hand and held the dragon-headed golden blade. His divine power turned into 7 different auras and gathered on the blade as if it could shatter the universe. The blade aura was like an evil dragon that had appeared and slashed forward. Tianyi sword art. Jiang Bailey waved one hand, and a 1,000-foot-long river of sword aura appeared out of thin air. As the sword aura surged, it converged into a sword and held in his hand. This sword was made by nature and could kill ghosts and gods. Its sword intent was indestructible and unbeatable. The sword slashed diagonally across the sky. Divine Featherbow. Another true god pulled back his divine power and turned it into a bow. He aimed at Bloodfox Mountain and shot it. A bloody light split the sky. Bang, bang, bang. The curved world was filled with countless blade lights and sword shadows. Wind, clouds, dragons, tigers, 5 elements, yin and yang divine power attacks. It was as if stars had collapsed and exploded. The entire mountain range trembled. Rumble. The periphery of Bloodfox Mountain was completely shattered. The divine elephant's domineering aura didn't diminish as it crushed all the true gods' attacks. It stomped all the way and crashed into the true gods. The temporary defense that the gods had put up was directly shattered by the divine elephant. It was invincible and sent all the true gods flying. Bang, bang, bang. The divine power shattered, and the divine shadows fell like meteors. The various true gods were sent flying all over the sky. 20 true gods were caught off guard. They had been preoccupied with preventing Lin Shun from escaping and sealing off his escape route, so they were not prepared to suffer such a heavy blow. Damn it. Who would have thought that this guy would be able to defend against 3 types of incomplete power of law and still have such a killer move? Today was like seeing a ghost. Was this AF * King Saint? If he casually used such a perverted trump card, people might even believe that he was at the 3rd level of the divine realm. Lin Shun smiled coldly. As expected, the stronger the vitality, the more powerful the divine elephant godhead will be. The current Lin Shun, with the help of the 5th stage of awakening, had a pure strength of 98 million venerables, infinitely close to the divine realm of body refinement. A purple, crystal-like broken jade appeared in his palm, exuding boundless energy. It was a fragment of divine jade. The energy contained in the divine jade was especially abundant. It could recover the divine power and blood essence of the refiner. A complete substandard divine jade could even recover one's divine soul. Supreme-grade spirit plants could produce divine jade fragments and substandard divine jade. Divine-grade spirit plants could produce medial-grade and high-grade divine jade. This divine jade fragment was given to Lin Shun by the Scarlet Fairy. Lin Shun clenched his fist, and the divine jade fragment entered his body. The consumed vitality was quickly restored. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Ripples appeared in the air as the divine elephant raged on. The sword god, Jiang Bailey, and the golden armored saber god retreated quickly. With the protection of sword and saber, the 2 of them were among the first true gods to recover. Rumble. The illusionary doppelgangers stepped on the clouds, and their bodies flickered with multicolored radiance. Flowing lights and vibrant colors lingered around them, and they actually sealed off the path of retreat of the injured gods. The divine dragon opened its mouth, and its aura skyrocketed. Divine light fell from the sky. The azure dragon storm swept across the sky of the mountain range, turning into a heavenly prison that enveloped all the true gods. The 20 true gods' mouths twitched, and their eyelids twitched wildly. Damn it, this kid's methods are so wild. Who was the one encircling home? Good Lord, he did not intend to escape from the beginning. Instead, he wanted to kill all the true gods here. He was not bluffing, he was serious. Chi. The illusionary doppelgangers drew their sabers and used God's tear to activate instant light doppelganger, suddenly slashing toward the true gods. Bang, bang, bang. The spinning saber aura exploded, and its power soared. The saber aura fragments scattered across the sky, twisting toward the true gods. Without the effects of destructive explosion and annihilation in the divine world, Lin Shen's God's Tear was not enough to threaten second-stage divine realm opponents. This move was a feint. Countless saber aura fragments struck the true gods like a storm. Although they did not pose a threat to them, they greatly slowed down their movements. For a moment, all the illusionary doppelgangers rushed up, and their movement techniques were like swimming dragons, forcing the true gods to fight. In front of them were 3 types of incomplete laws of nature. Behind them were Lin Shen's 6 illusionary doppelgangers, and the divine dragon's extreme hell-heavenly prison that cut across the sky. They had nowhere to run. Mighty thunderbolt. Lin Shen's spear smashed down violently, and dozens of lightning dragon-like spear lights suddenly descended, carrying a sharpness that could pierce through mountains, rivers, sun, and moon, penetrating the defenses of many true gods of the Taichu Divine Kingdom. "How dare you!" the Taichu Divine Kingdom Patriarch shouted angrily, and with a backhand palm, the moonlight like a rainbow, attacked Lin Shen. Rumble. Jiang Bailey and the golden armored saber god, one on the left and one on the right, unleashed their body movement skills. Their saber will came crashing down, and their sword will destroy the world. They attacked Lin Shen from the left and right, turning into the most terrifying of blades that shot out. Lin Shen instantly waved his spear, and lightning flashed, forming layers of defensive barriers. Clang, clang, clang. The sword intent and saber intent attacked like 2 fierce dragons, rapidly colliding with Lin Shen's spear. They were struck down again and again, but the Divine Kingdom Patriarch's palm sent Lin Shen flying thousands of feet away. Jiang Bailey sneered. "Young people are young after all." The golden armored sword god said sternly, "Take him down in one go." The sword intent and saber intent they cultivated were enough to easily shatter the primordial spirit and affect the enemy's internal organs. With Lin Shen's appearance just now, it was impossible for him to escape unscathed. What? The 2 gods suddenly stared in front of them, dumbfounded. When Lin Shen's figure appeared, the torn wound on his robe was rapidly healing. His primordial spirit seemed to be injured, but there was a kind of eternal power that healed his primordial spirit. The immortal godhead is continuously activated. The host's injuries have been healed, consuming 320,000 high-level sacred heavenly path points. Lin Shen thought to himself, it's quite difficult to deal with so many true gods working together. The divine dragon still has to deal with other true gods. As expected, it was right to injure these guys with the divine elephant godhead in advance. Seeing this strange scene, the greed in the eyes of the Taichu Divine Kingdom Patriarch became even more fanatical. He can heal his injuries in an instant. This kid must have a divine item on him. Deal with him, we must deal with him. On the surface, Lin Shen was still as calm as ever. He even smiled mockingly. "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Chapter 1895. The Grand Primordium Patriarch clenched his fist, and an exquisite silver horsetail whisk appeared in the air. The horsetail whisk was like 3,000 silver threads, and its divine power descended. It was the divine weapon of the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom. The gods of the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom were shocked. The patriarch was going to use the exquisite Skyheart horsetail whisk to deal with this kid? The moment he saw the divine weapon, Lin Chen's eyes lit up. Divine weapon? It's great that you're here. I'm going to hit a divine weapon. He seemed to have been prepared. When he opened his palm, a 9-colored star with lingering aurora spun. He raised his hand and threw it. The 9-colored star streaked across the sky and turned into a 9-colored aurora that fell straight for the Grand Primordium Patriarch, instantly splitting into 5. Grand Primordium Divine Slash. The Patriarch was fearless. The divine weapon lit up, and the horsetail whisk grew into a 1,000-foot-long divine saber. It gathered the power of the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom's unique cultivation technique and slashed down. Bang, bang, bang. The saber split the star, and the sky trembled. The blade blocked the 5 beams of light from the 9 tribulation star. The holy light overflowed, and it seemed like it was about to collapse. The Grand Primordium Patriarch's cultivation was at the late stage of the 2nd level of the divine realm. Even though he was injured, he was still powerful. With the help of the divine weapon, he wasn't afraid of Lin Chen's 9 tribulation star at all. The moment the blade slashed the star, the sword and saber god's scalps suddenly tingled. 160 hexagonal stars flickered around Lin Chen's 6 phantom doppelgangers, and a lantern-like 9-colored star cluster condensed in one hand. Annihilation, star explosion. The power of the 160 saint points of the 6 doppelgangers exploded. Oh no, F*CK. This young man doesn't care about martial ethics. He's using a sneak attack. There's nowhere to run. Oh no. All the true God's expressions changed drastically. Rumble. Bang. 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 An earth-shattering energy storm erupted in the territory of Blood Fox Mountain. It was magnificent and majestic, like a spinning ball that continued to expand. If the 20 true gods were at their peak and joined forces, they naturally wouldn't be afraid. In fact, they might even be able to evade the attack before receiving it. But Lin Chen's divine elephant impact had caused them considerable injuries. In addition, there were 3 types of incomplete laws in front of them. With Lin Chen's attack behind them, there was no way they could retreat. They were forced to take Lin Chen's Annihilation Star explosion head-on at the center of the fiercest attack. The 5th prince melted into the storm and screamed shrilly. No, my divine power can't hold on much longer. Didn't you guys say that you'd be able to take this dog down? Why is he still beaten up like this? Ancestor, save me. Save me, Dad. Didn't you say that I'm your biological son after having an affair with my mother? Hurry and save my father. The 5th prince's screams made the true gods of the Holy Kingdom twitch their mouths. Upon hearing the 5th prince's screams, Lin Chen exclaimed, "The noble circle is really messy." The Holy Kingdom's ancestor was flustered and exasperated. He wanted to save him, but he couldn't protect so many people in the 9 tribulations planet. The ancestor roared at the top of his lungs. Lin Chen, if you don't stop now, the Holy Kingdom of Taichu will not rest until you're dead. Lin Chen sneered as he retreated. Still won't rest until you're dead? Old thing, aren't you eyeing my secret? Come and get it if you have the guts. In the distance, Shangguan Qi's lips twitched as she watched the magnificent and majestic energy storm continue to expand. Even Shangguan Yun froze in the void. Shangguan Qi said, "Sister, did you just say that you want to help him?" Shangguan Yun. Shangguan Qi. Does he look like someone who needs help? As soon as the 2 sisters finished speaking, Shui Ye's expression changed slightly. They sensed it. Divine power began to dissipate. No, many true gods had already begun to die in that apocalyptic storm. Qi. At this moment, 2 figures rushed out like dragons. Their sharpness soared into the sky, transforming into 2 swift saber and sword shadows that rushed out of the apocalyptic energy storm. It was Jiang Bailey and the golden armor saber god from the bright divine sect. These were the 2 second-level divine realm experts who could still rush out of the annihilation star explosion. Even so, their bodies were covered in burns at this moment. They were dripping with blood, and their flesh was badly mutilated. Some parts even cracked. Brat, if I don't take revenge for this, I, John Bailey, am not a god. I'll go back and call for more people. The two true gods gritted their teeth and retreated while cursing. However, a loud bang suddenly came from the sky. Flash of time. The curved space-time seemed to have stopped. Boom! The huge dragon body flashed over like a ghost. Under the curved space-time, a pale green dragon claw stretched out with invincible power that could move mountains and fill seas. The green light was extinguished, and it was as if 5 blades were slashing down. Heavenly Claw. Chi. Rip. When the dragon claw slashed down, the afterimage of the dragon claw split into 5, covering the sky and earth. It also carried a strange power that bombarded the dragon claw until a large area of the void stagnated. The golden-armored sword god was horrified. What? Jiang Bailey seemed to have been struck by lightning. He seemed to have thought of something. This dragon claw is not in the 5 elements or reincarnation. It can freeze space-time. It's the Dragon Clan's ancient primordial dragon claw. Boom! The blade-like dragon claw tore through the two true gods' divine defenses and destroyed their last line of defense. Even their saber intent and sword intent protection were useless. The two vomited blood. They had no chance to retreat at all. Lin Shun used the ancient primordial dragon's dragon claw to activate the ancient sky, raising dragon's bloodline special ability, Heavenly Claw, and shattered their defenses. Almost at the same time, Lin Shun stepped on clouds and appeared in front of the two. He held a battle spear and pierced through the air. Chi. The tip of the spear pierced through the bodies of Jiang Bailey and the golden-armored sword god. 2 famous sword Dao true gods and saber Dao true gods died, just like that. Bang! The moment their divine bodies exploded, they turned into shooting stars in the sky, dropping a large number of attribute light balls and 2 attribute treasure chests. However, Lin Shin couldn't care less about the attribute treasure chests. Other true gods had escaped the range of Annihilation Starburst. He grabbed the void, and a divine dragon swam in the air. A ball of pitch-black divine power appeared in Lin Shen's palm, and a huge pitch-black divine power boundary opened. Post-activated God Creation, Divine Spark, consuming 550,000 high-tier Holy Heavenly Dao points. Lin Shun clenched his fist. Buzz! Chi! The pitch-black divine power boundary contracted instantly, and the 9 true gods who had escaped were squeezed into a ball. What kind of monster is he? This kid still has a trump card? What kind of strange move is this? This old man's divine power has been crushed. Where did this kid get this kind of power from? I was wrong. I shouldn't have thought about this monster. This is not a fucking killer move that can be reproduced by the Saint energy. Lin Shun, let's talk. Don't use your killing moves. We were blinded by greed. As long as you don't kill us, we are willing to pay any price. The true gods wailed and used the last of their divine power to resist the gravitational pressure of God creation. Blood spurted out, and their flesh was torn open. In the past, the true gods were aloof from the outside world. Naturally, it was because no one could control their life and death. Even if they were defeated in a battle, it would not be difficult for them to preserve their lives. However, it was different when they encountered a lunatic like Lin Shun. It had to be said, forget it. As expected of the old foxes who have been in the divine realm for many years. A divine elephant god and 6 doppelgangers annihilation starburst couldn't kill many of you. However, since you have persisted to this extent, let's see what other trump cards you have. The pitch-black divine power in his palm grew thicker and thicker. Lin Shun suddenly exerted force with his 5 fingers and clenched his palm tightly. Bang! 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 Amidst the series of explosions, the final sound was the explosion of the divine summoning barrier. Chapter 1896. The divine power barrier shrank, and another true god died. Shangguan Qi, who was watching the battle from afar, exclaimed, It exploded. However, Shang Wanyan said, no, his barrier also exploded. When the pitch-black divine power barrier shrank, it instantly cracked and crushed the four seriously injured true gods into a pool of broken bones and blood. The five true gods of the Taichu divine kingdom escaped from the God Guidance space. With the Patriarch's divine weapon, their lives were saved. However, the Patriarch held a lump of bloody flesh in his hand and roared mournfully as if he had lost his parents. My son, the five true gods of the Taichu divine kingdom had complicated feelings when they saw this scene. Good Lord, the fifth prince was really the Patriarch's son, suppressing 9 second-level divine realm experts at the same time. The power of one God Guidance fragment is not enough. I need more. Lin Shun rode on the heavenly light and moved alongside the mystical dragon, displaying his movement technique. Swoosh! The Patriarch waved his horsetail whisk, and many moonlight paths extended from the curved space. Not good, this guy wants to escape. Lin Chen's eyes were sharp. What a joke, Brother Chun. I've already taken out my elephant, and you still want to leave. Wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? Just using 6 clones to use Annihilation Star Explosion meant that Lin Chun had to condense another clone and consume a huge amount of attribute points. Wouldn't he have to fight to the death to earn back the attribute points? Tai Universe Flash. The 4-dimensional space-time stopped, and the world in front of him spun rapidly. Lin Shin stepped on the divine dragon and charged toward the gods of the Taichu divine kingdom. The divine dragon raised its dragon claw and smashed down. Lin Shun pulled out his spear and chased after it like a dragon. Exquisite change, bright moon seal. The Patriarch's white hair danced in the wind as his eyes widened in anger. He formed a seal with one hand and waved his horsetail whisk, predicting and shaking off this claw in advance. A bright, moon-like light shot toward Lin Shun and instantly merged into his body. Lin Shun, wait for your death. My Kingdom of God seal has been planted in your body. In the near future, you will be hunted down endlessly until you are dead. You provoke the Taichu divine kingdom and kill my son. I will let you know how to write the word death. Taichu ancestor sent a message to the injured real gods and merged into the bright moon great path. There was a flash, and they disappeared under the moonlight. It's hard to fathom the truth of the God realm. What a unique way of escaping. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with a pale green light. It seemed like he could catch up, but he didn't rashly pursue. Ordinary powerhouses might have chased after him, but Lin Shun possessed the bloodline of the ancient cosmic dragon. He was able to see through the essence of dimensions and space-time. He could see through the mysteries of this Tao. The bright moon Tao was opened up by the exquisite Skyheart horsetail whisk, and one Tao led to many Taos. Even if Lin Chun chased after them and entered one of the bright moon paths, they would be able to instantly teleport to another path. They could even close the path that Lin Chun was at, and Lin Chun would be trapped in the spatial storm of the 4-dimensional divine world. The spatial storm of the 4-dimensional divine world was no small matter. It was worlds apart from the 3-dimensional universe. Lin Chun wouldn't be able to escape easily if he was trapped in it. So what if you run fast? I'll have plenty of ways to deal with you. Lin Chun and Divine Dragon split up. Let's collect the attribute light balls first. Divine Dragon was in charge of collecting the attribute light balls, while Lin Chun took the lead to collect the attribute treasure chest dropped by Jiang Bailey and the golden armored saber god. When the pitch-black treasure chest opened, a pitch-black broken jade appeared. Host has opened the divine lattice treasure chest. Congratulations on obtaining energy type divine lattice fragment, divine guidance fragment 2/6. Divine guidance fragment +1. It was even more powerful, and the gravity of the barrier was even more terrifying. One divine guidance fragment could easily suppress a late-stage second-stage divine realm expert, or even a group of second-stage divine realm experts. Even if he encountered a third-stage divine realm expert, Lin Chun would still be able to wrestle with him. However, Lin Chen's gaze landed on the attribute treasure chest dropped by Jiang Bailey. The treasure chest was blood red, and it hung in front of Lin Chun like a mighty blood moon. Lin Chun said in surprise, "What a terrifying aura. Could this be a new divine lattice?" Lin Chun reached out to touch it. The treasure chest opened, and a blood-red hexagonal divine lattice in the shape of a fragment appeared. Host has opened the divine lattice treasure chest. Congratulations on obtaining energy-type divine lattice fragment. Azura's Nemesis, 1/6. This divine lattice is activated passively and does not need to be used actively. Note, it is only effective against members of the Azura tribe. When facing hostile members of the Azura tribe, the host's ability will be greatly enhanced. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the effect. There is no end to it, and there is no upper limit. Lin Chun was stunned. Azura's Nemesis? What kind of weird divine lattice was this? Moreover, it was marked that it could only be used against members of the Azura tribe. It's really mysterious. There are always strange things that drop. Lin Chun exclaimed. Seeing his attribute points soar, he had a thought. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Lin Chun's doppelgangers appeared again. Host has activated the Phantom Rune 6 times, creating 6 doppelgangers. Consume 12. For million high-grade Saint Heavenly Tao points. Lin Chun clicked his tongue. His doppelgangers had been destroyed by the shockwave earlier. Summoning another doppelganger would consume a ridiculous amount of attribute points. Open the Divine Lattice Treasure Chest. Obtained 50 million intermediate set essence. Open the Divine Lattice Treasure Chest. Obtained 10 million high-grade Saint Heavenly Tao points. Open the Divine Lattice Treasure Chest. Obtained 1 million wood energy points. Every item dropped by a deity was good stuff, but it was a pity that Lin Chun did not obtain the last heaven-defying Divine Lattice fragment that he had been dreaming of. The system's judgment was always based on the difference in strength between the host and the opponent to determine the drop rate of attribute treasures. However, Lin Chun had killed 15 true gods this time and obtained a large pile of top-grade attribute points. Of course, Lin Chun had also provoked a huge disaster. After this, once the news spread out, Lin Chun's value and allure to various experts would rise to another level. A saint had single-handedly defeated 15 deity realm experts, and most of them were at the second stage of the deity realm. If this news spread out, not to mention the North region, even the vast land of the Star Continent would be shocked, especially the Taichu Divine Kingdom, who had even cast the Bright Moon seal on him. Unless the Taichu Divine Kingdom's unique secret technique removed it, or an expert 2 stages higher than the founder could forcibly remove it. However, the founder of the Taichu Divine Kingdom was a super god at the 4th stage of the deity realm. To be 2 stages higher, it would require at least the 6th stage of the deity realm to remove it. Such an existence was a strength that only some of the old monsters among the ancient giants could possess. In other words, it was almost impossible for Lin Chun to remove the Bright Moon seal. What he had to face next would be a real storm. In a way, the Taichu Divine Kingdom might be the biggest winner. Even if they couldn't take down Lin Chun, they could still control Lin Chun's coordinates and sell them to other major forces. Wouldn't that be a huge profit? Lin Chun was very carefree. When the boat comes to the bridge, it'll be straight. When the spear reaches the depths, it'll be smooth. Who cares? If someone dares to have designs on me, I'll just do it. Ever since he used the Golden Battle God set, Lin Chun's spirit and state of mind had changed subtly. He became more and more courageous, and he became indifferent to life and death. If it was in the past, Lin Chun might have hidden for a while before coming out to beat up that son of a B***TCH. Now endure? Afraid of being exposed? Endure my ass. He dared to fight against the gods and make the divine realm have no more gods. Chapter 1897. System, I want to awaken the 6th stage of the flesh shell. Host has awakened the 6th stage of the flesh shell. 12 million high-tier sage heavenly path points have been consumed. The further one awakened the awakening function, the higher the consumption. Fortunately, Lin Shan could kill gods as easily as slaughtering chickens. His attributes were no longer as scarce as before. Rumble. Lin Shan's blood began to burn like a bloody flame. It was so strong that it was like the sun and moon in the sky. A brand new power surged through his body, and every inch of his flesh and blood glowed with extreme power. Host's maximum strength, 120 million venerable energy, flesh shell awakening plus 600%. Lin Shan's actual strength was around 14 million venerable energy, which was almost the limit of a mortal body. But with the awakening function, he had awakened more than 100 million venerable energy. From today onwards, I have met the minimum requirement to wear the Golden Battle God set. The Golden Battle God set had a minimum requirement of 100 million venerable energy. In the past, Lin Shan had to rely on the God Slayer talent to meet the requirement. Now, he could use this trump card without relying on the God Slayer talent. System: strengthen the ancient Aeon Dragon bloodline to the maximum. Consume 10,000 high-tier enhancement points. Strengthening ancient Aeon Dragon bloodline plus 1 succeeded. Consumed 19,000 high-tier enhancement points. Strengthening ancient Aeon Dragon bloodline plus 2 succeeded. When he was at the sacred boundary, Lin Shan could not strengthen the ancient Aeon Dragon bloodline. It was not difficult to strengthen it to the maximum. After this strengthening, Lin Shan's Cosmic Flash and Cosmic Dragon Claw would be several times more powerful. It was especially terrifying. Although the true gods of the human race have less blood essence, they are still in the deity realm. The blood essence energy obtained has already allowed the divine dragon to reach the 16th divine dragon meridian. After taking away the attribute light balls of the fallen true gods, Lin Shan faintly sensed the position of the 81st saint point. It was full of saint power and could try to break through to a new realm. He had just reached the saint heart realm a day ago, and he could break through to the heaven opening realm. If this breakthrough speed were to spread, he would be regarded as a monster. Lin Shan wouldn't easily break through to the heaven opening saint point. He would only choose a perfect breakthrough. The heaven opening realm was an extremely important realm, and the amount of Saint Chi one could obtain from Saint Point was directly related to one's own accumulation, tempering, and potential. The more one accumulated, the more terrifying the heaven opening realm Saint Point would be. Furthermore, unlike the Sacred Heart realm, the heaven opening realm's Saint Acupoint Saint Force had no upper limit. Either don't do it, or do it to the best of your ability. Accumulating it was the right thing to do. The best thing to do was to release it at the highest point. Lin Shan turned his gaze, looking at the chaotic and violent laws of Blood Fox Mountain, and smiled playfully. I still have to deal with this scourge. After saying this, Lin Shan used his movement technique. They rushed straight into the heart of the Blood Fox Mountain. The incomplete laws were indeed very strong, but without anyone commanding them. They were nothing more than a paper tiger with claws and fangs. The 3 incomplete laws had diluted most of the blood fog, and now there was no pressure to enter Blood Fox Mountain. When he arrived at the center of the Blood Fox Mountain peak and avoided the incomplete laws of nature, Lin Shan looked at the trench-like crack at the bottom. Divine Dragon Possession. The Divine Dragon turned into a ray of light and entered Lin Shan's body, and he suddenly slammed his palm down. Boom! He activated the Heavenly Claw, and the 5-section Dragon Claw slammed into the bottom of the Blood Fox Mountain. Bang! 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 The ground collapsed, and lava surged. Lin Shan raised his hand and pulled, and the Dragon Claw pulled out across the air. When the ground cracked open, a green ball of light was pulled out by Lin Shan's Dragon Claw. The ball of light floated in the air, its meridians pulsing, and its entire body was gorgeous and colorful. It was actually the heart of a divine beast. It must be the heart of the divine fox that fell here back then. When Lin Shan held the heart of the divine fox in his palm, the three incomplete laws of nature immediately began to dissipate and enter the heart of the divine fox. The source of all of this was actually the heart of the divine fox. If it weren't for it, the blood pool and the laws of nature in the blood fox mountain wouldn't have been produced. Lin Shun refined the blood pool in one go, causing the heart of the divine fox to instinctively counterattack. It didn't have intelligence and was only instinctively defending itself with the incomplete laws of nature. Otherwise, Lin Shun and the 20 true gods might not be its match if it controlled the three incomplete laws of nature. Of course, the premise was that Lin Shun didn't use the Golden Battle God set. The heart of the divine fox still contains the energy of the divine fox back then. Although there's a large amount of vitality energy, the laws of nature it contains are the most important. Perhaps when it's my turn to comprehend the laws of nature in the future, this item will be of great help to me. Lin Shun sealed the heart of the divine fox with his sacred power and threw it into the Providence plant pouch for Fairy Scarlet to keep. Whoosh! The sound of wind breaking could be heard as Shangguan Yun stepped into the air and appeared beside Lin Shun. Her cold face was solemn as she said seriously, "Take advantage of the fact that they haven't returned to the Taichu Divine Kingdom yet. Run." Lin Shun was puzzled. Run? Yes, Shangguan Yun said. "You've caused a huge disaster. There are only two paths now. One is to join the sect of an ancient giant. This is the safest way. The second is to escape to the Realm Sea. There, even the experts of the Star Continent can't reach you." Lin Shun was interested. Oh, Ninefold Realm Sea. The Ninefold Realm Sea was the most mysterious area in the Divine Realm. In the 5 continents of the Divine Realm, there are supreme forces that set the rules. However, the Ninefold Realm Sea was located at the edge of the Divine Realm. There were no rules. It was the most chaotic and lawless area in the Divine Realm. There were a large number of islands and unique 4-dimensional spaces in the Ninefold Realm Sea. Moreover, each Realm Sea was vast and boundless, containing countless secrets. No one knew the essence of the Realm Sea. Each Realm Sea was even more mysterious than the previous one. The number of different experts would also increase along with the number of layers in each Realm Sea. Once one entered the Realm Sea, no matter what kind of background one had, no matter how powerful one was, it was useless. Within the Realm Sea, everything depended on one's ability. Using a man-eating world to describe the Ninefold Realm Sea was completely not enough. It should be said that having the awareness to eat people was the most basic factor to enter the Ninefold Realm Sea. Lin Shun killed a deity as a sage. It might be very shocking to the ordinary areas of the Divine Realm. However, in the Ninefold Realm Sea, there were also such ruthless people. However, they didn't necessarily kill a true deity in a head-on battle. They used other methods. In short, the experts that walked out of the Ninefold Realm Sea were all matchless, ruthless people. However, they usually wouldn't easily cross the boundary. Firstly, the supreme experts guarding the 5 continents of the Divine Realm weren't to be trifled with. Secondly, the rules of the 5 continents didn't suit them. The resources weren't as abundant as the Ninefold Realm Sea. Many ancient giants and ancient small giants would arrange some of their core disciples to train in the Ninefold Realm Sea. However, they usually only trained in the 1st and 2nd Realm Sea. After all, starting from the 3rd Realm Sea, the Azura clan would appear. Shangguan Yun said seriously, "Your origin comes from the 3rd dimension. If you don't have connections, even if you enter the sect of an ancient giant, it's very likely that you'll be remembered by the sect. The best choice is to escape to the Realm Sea. If the absolute beginning divine nation spreads the news of you—" "Stop, stop, stop!" Lin Shun interrupted her and said with a playful smile, "Why am I the one escaping?" Lin Shun smiled and said, "Why should I escape? The ones who should escape are them." Shangguan Yun slowly typed out a question mark. Chapter 1898. Shangguan Yun didn't keep up with Lin Chen's train of thought. Now was the best time to escape. Where there was life, there was hope. With Lin Shen's foundation, it was very suitable for him to go to the nine-layered realm sea. However, what was his plan? The one who wanted to escape wasn't him, but the Taichu Divine Kingdom. Brother, you're waiting for death. You can defeat a group of second-level Divine Realm experts, but do you think you could defeat a group of third-level or even fourth-level Divine Realm experts? Just the difference between the early stage, mid-stage, and late stage of the second-level Divine Realm had already been vividly displayed in the previous battle. The difference after the third level would only be even more perverted. Shangwan Yun's expression changed several times. She seemed to have realized that she seemed to have just met him. It was as if every time he acted, it was like meeting him for the first time. She could never see through him. Why didn't he play by the rules? Lin Shun patted her shoulder with a faint smile on his face. Miss Shangwan Yun, I have a new collaboration. Are you interested? Shangwan Yun looked at his face that looked like he wanted to cause trouble, and the corners of her lips twitched. What do you want to do? So. What? You want to overturn the Taichu Divine Kingdom? Impossible. It's not realistic at all. Do you know the distance between here and the Taichu Divine Kingdom? By the time you fight, they would have already gathered a large number of experts. Shangwan Yun stared at Lin Shun as if she was looking at a lunatic. This guy actually wanted to challenge a divine kingdom alone? Didn't he have any common sense? Defeating the Taichu Divine Kingdom's patriarch didn't mean that he could destroy a divine kingdom. For a divine kingdom to be able to exist until now, it must have a strong enough foundation. No one knew what kind of trump card a divine kingdom would use if they were forced into a dead end. A war between divine kingdoms would only involve high-level battles and secret battles. It would never be a war to the death of a kingdom. Whoever fought first might be the first to perish. Moreover, the Taichu Divine Kingdom was far away from Blood Fox Mountain, and there was no special four-dimensional passage. It would take more than a month for a normal true god to rush there. By the time they arrived, they might have attracted countless experts to suppress Lin Shun. This wasn't a one-on-one battle. This was suicide. Lin Shun smiled. So what if it's far away? You lead the way, and I'll take you off. The host has consumed 10 million points of intermediate set essence. Wind God Wings charge, 10%. Whoosh! Two beams of azure light intertwined, forming a pair of azure rainbow wings on Lin Shen's back. The divine wings unfurled, their edges and corners distinct, as if they were formed from interweaving green jade, emitting a whistling sound wave of divine wind. Part of the king of speed, wings of wind. Wearing the divine wind wings, Lin Shen's temperament changed drastically. His hair danced in the wind, making him look like an elegant god of wind descending to the mortal world. His side profile was elegant, and his face was clear and bright, making people feel intoxicated. Even Shangwan Yun was slightly stunned. Lin Shun flipped his hair and smiled wickedly. Do you really think I'm going to use this king of speed equipment to escape? What I'm hammering is the divine kingdom. Using his fastest speed to escape, this was a F** king waste. Let's go. Let go the grand primordium divine kingdom. They're just the prey, and I'm the hunter. Grabbing Shangwan Yun's wrist, Lin Shun spread his wings of wind, and the two of them disappeared in a flash. At that moment, what Shangwan Yun felt was not fast. It was the teleportation of the four-dimensional space-time. 5 days later, in the Grand Primordium Divine Palace. In the Divine Kingdom Divine Palace, a fiery light descended. A true god in a fiery robe stepped out slowly. When he stepped into the palace, the Grand Primordium Divine Ancestor smiled. Long time no see, old man Jiwa. The old man with fiery eyebrows glanced at him indifferently. After so many years, you're still at the late stage of the second-level divine realm. Old man, can you do it? Don't guard your divine kingdom all day long. Ha ha ha. Your mouth is still so vicious. Please come in. The two of them smiled insincerely. As they chatted, strange phenomena appeared outside the palace. Oh, green-faced ghost is here too. An overlord sword Feng Xie, 10 ultimate flying daggers Lin Jun, heavenly mandate deity, and dragon gate G. Good heavens, this piece of news from this old man has startled all of you old monsters to come out. The grand primordium divine ancestor in the palace exclaimed. These old monsters were all at the 3rd level of the divine realm. However, the grand primordium divine ancestor did not stand up to welcome them. His attitude made his stance clear, and he was not afraid that these old monsters would attack his divine kingdom. All the true gods sat down with different expressions, and their gazes were focused on the grand primordium divine ancestor. The grand primordium divine ancestor's expression darkened. Almost everyone is here. About the shocking child who appeared out of nowhere in Bloodfox Mountain recently. Wait a minute. An old and decrepit voice reverberated in the temple. His voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated like the sound of a giant bell. It reverberated in everyone's ears and caused the expressions of all the true gods to freeze. A wisp of black and white smoke burned at the gate of the palace, rising slowly like a surging smoke signal. As the smoke spread, 2 black and white figures appeared out of thin air. Both of them looked young with full foreheads, sharp eyebrows, bright eyes, and long hair, but there was a sense of vicissitudes between their eyebrows. The youth on the left had deep and dark pupils, while the youth on the right had bright white pupils like stars. The grand primordium divine ancestor raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "It's the Yu family's black and white elders, Yu Mie and Eugene." All the true gods present looked solemn. These 2 old monsters were extremely well hidden, like bottomless abysses. They couldn't even detect their auras and cultivation. They were definitely above everyone present. Mid-stage, 3rd level of the divine realm? No, it might be even worse. Their figures flashed, and the youthful black and white elders sat in the empty seats like ghosts. White Elder Yumie said coldly, "This kid hurt the Yu family's granddaughter, Yu Tianwei, and he has no power. He has to pay the price." Black Elder Yu Jin's killing intent appeared. As for the reward, the Yu family will pay twice what they pay. You also have to share the information of the Taichu Divine Kingdom with the Yu family. The information of the Taichu Divine Kingdom was very important now. Before the news reached the ears of the big shots, they had to take down this kid first. The grand primordium divine ancestor stroked his beard and smiled. Well said, well said. According to the agreement, if we capture this kid, the Taichu Divine Kingdom will also have a share of his secrets. The 2 elders of the Yu family nodded. Of course. Okay, then about your sincerity and the price of listening to the information. Before the grand primordium divine ancestor could finish speaking, a voice suddenly came from outside the temple. Divine ancestor, the president of the new standalone Chamber of Commerce next door, Lin Shun, wants to see you. He said that he has a great reward to discuss with you. He also said that he knows part of Lin Chen's background and trump cards and is willing to share them with the Divine Kingdom. All the gods present were stunned. Who was this guy who appeared at this juncture? A standalone Chamber of Commerce? They had never heard of it. The grand primordium divine ancestor's eyes were even more interesting. Who was this person? How could he know Lin Chen's background? His trump cards? To be honest, the grand primordium divine ancestor had already become cautious after fighting with Lin Chen once. This young man was full of secrets. It was possible that the previous battle was his full strength. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy could you win 100 battles. They knew nothing about him. If they could predict his other abilities in advance, the chances of capturing him alive would greatly increase. The grand primordium divine ancestor pondered. Yes, interesting. Invite this president in. Chapter 1899. Outside the temple, the elder from the Taichu Divine Kingdom said respectfully, "Director Chun, please come in." As soon as the voice transmission was heard, 2 figures walked in through the temple's door. The woman beside him was a true god, dressed as a maid. She had a slender waist, jade-like legs, and a skirt that swayed like a lotus flower. Her skin was like cream, and her face was beautiful and elegant. She faintly exuded the temperament of a snow lotus. She was arrogant and cold, but she was very obedient and convinced as she followed behind the white-robed man. This scene made many true gods raise their eyebrows. A true god maid? What a grand scene! Maids are not rare, but a true god maid was definitely not something an ordinary faction could afford, especially a maid at the second level of the divine realm. This kind of talent was even more monstrous than the true disciples of the ancient divine sex. With such talent and foundation, how could she be willing to be a maid for someone else? To be able to have a true god as a maid, one could imagine how terrifying this white-robed man's background was. The youth in the lead was dressed in white. He had a graceful bearing, and his face was like jade. His eyes were bright, and he was handsome. His pair of deep eyes seemed to want to suck in all the old monster's attention, and they were full of mystery. Faced with the gazes of so many old monster-level true gods, he remained calm and composed, as if he had returned to his own territory. He was so calm and composed that the other true gods had a whole new level of respect for him. This young man could actually remain calm under their gazes. He must have had extraordinary experience and was worlds apart from the young people that were still being groomed by the factions behind them. The most mysterious thing was his aura. All the true gods present, including Eugene and Yumia of the Yu family, could not sense his cultivation. It was as if there was some mysterious treasure that covered his aura. When a true divinity was unable to detect his cultivation, they sneered and released a fluctuation of their primordial spirit. Buzz. When the essence spirit fluctuation was 100 feet away from the white-robed youth, it instantly shattered. What a powerful essence spirit. This kid is also at the perfected essence spirit realm. Young, too young. Although his life fluctuation is covered, I can vaguely sense that this kid is not even 500 years old. Under everyone's gaze, the two walked to the round table. Before Tai Chu ancestor could speak, the white-robed youth sat down and crossed his legs on the table. An old monster frowned. So arrogant? Looking down on everyone? Chun-Lin waved his hand. Whoosh! The brilliant divine jade, which was about the size of a palm, was flung onto the round table, shining with a dark green brilliance like the twinkling of stars. Everyone's eyes lit up. A complete substandard divine jade. And there were 10 of them at once. However, what made the old monster's eyes burn even more was the exquisite treasure box in the center of the divine jade. On the surface of the exquisite treasure box, there were divine flames burning like dancing dragons. Just this treasure box alone had a powerful seal engraved on it. It was already extremely valuable, not to mention the inside of the treasure box. In the center of the treasure box was a precious jade with pulsating red veins. It was a peerless odd crystal. Chun-Lin had a frivolous look on his face as he crossed his legs. The true god maidservant beside him bent down to massage his shoulders and neck. Then he said lazily, "This is a greeting gift from me to the Tai Chu divine kingdom." What? Everyone was shocked, and the expressions of the Yu family's two elders froze. It was just a greeting gift? What kind of wealth was this? With the chips on the table, it was not far from the reward they wanted to give to the Tai Chu divine kingdom in exchange for information. But it was just a greeting gift? A peerless odd crystal was not considered precious to the gods. But a peerless odd crystal was no small matter. It was also very tempting to these old monsters at the third level of the divine realm. A peerless odd crystal had a crucial effect, which was to increase the probability of a god condensing a law. Although the probability was small, the temptation was not something ordinary treasures could compare to. The divine realm was vast, and just the star state alone was filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. There were countless hidden experts, and this might be the birth of a certain expert. Such a precious gift as a greeting gift. Who exactly is this young president? Why have I never heard of this chamber of commerce? The Tai Chu old ancestor narrowed his eyes and didn't touch the things on the table. The older one got, the wiser he became. He knew very well that treasures had to be obtained at an equivalent price. However, this precious greeting gift was exchanged for the Tai Chu old ancestor's pleasant expression. The old ancestor smiled. President Chun is young and promising. Why have I never heard of your Chamber of Commerce? Chun Lin said indifferently, because my father is very arrogant and advised me to keep a low profile. This time, I went out to train just to earn money. He patted his chest and said, I bought my position as president for the sake of earning money. Also, I don't like to earn money from poor people. Oh, the Tai Chu old ancestor was surprised. Then whose money do you want to earn? Chun Lin smiled casually. I'll take it from whoever has the money. 10 Extreme Flying Dagger Lin Jun smiled playfully. Then who has money? Chun Lin pointed at everyone and said indifferently, You have money. The true gods looked at each other and laughed. Only the black and white elders looked at Chun Lin coldly. The Tai Chu old ancestor smiled faintly. President Chun, you're too polite. A peerless odd crystal as a greeting gift is not ordinary. Lin Jun said indifferently. If you want to earn money from us, I'm afraid the amount won't reach President Chin's expectations. Chun Lin smiled. Odd crystals with a god kingdom. Isn't that right? Back then, who didn't know that your Tai Chu divine kingdom was the boss of the 30 states? The Tai Chu old ancestor stroked his beard and smiled. President Chun, you're too humble. May I ask what grudge this Lin Chun has with your Chamber of Commerce? Chun Lin narrowed his eyes and revealed his killing intent. Everyone was surprised. It was obvious that this Lin Chun had offended this reclusive disciple many times. Chun Lin revealed a look of reminiscence and said slowly, He has no grudge with my Chamber of Commerce, but he has a personal grudge with me. Oh, the Tai Chu old ancestor was surprised. What do you mean? Chun Lin said, He stole my technique. The fierce overlord sword Fong Xia was surprised. President Chin's family background is not bad. There must be many strong people in your family, right? How could he have stolen your cultivation technique? Chun Lin said, Because my technique is all picked up. Everyone. Chun Lin said indifferently, My father has too many top-notch cultivation methods. They are piled up like a mountain. Most of them are used to prop up the corners of his table. The cultivation methods that I cultivated were all picked up from him. Everyone's mouth twitched. Was this human language? Chun Lin continued. The two of us were once friends and met by chance. I went out in a low-key manner and got to know him. After heart-to-heart talk, we got along very well. Seeing that this child is more handsome than me, I became friends with him. I invited him to my residence to take a look, but I didn't expect this child to have such evil intentions. Speaking of this, Chun Lin's killing intent intensified, making everyone believe him even more. He said coldly, The two of us drank and chatted happily, but who knew that he actually drugged the wine and knocked me out? He entered my residence, slept on my bed, flirted with my girl, and stole my technique. He was very arrogant. Chapter 1900. This, after listening to Chun Lin's explanation, everyone looked at each other. This story sounded too magical. It was full of loopholes. Was President Chun so easy to be taken down by others? Disregarding everything else, just this second-level true god, maidservant by your side, was not a simple person. If she took you down, wouldn't any expert from your family easily discover her? Lin Jun frowned and said, President Chun, aren't you letting this kid get his way too easily? Chun Lin glanced at him, his lips curling into a cold smile. He tapped the table with his fingertips, and the beautiful maidservant behind him immediately poured wine for him. Chun Lin raised the wine cup and finished it in one gulp before saying slowly, Friend, let me ask you, what's Lin Chen's cultivation level? Lin Jun said instinctively, Naturally, he's a saint. After saying that, even Lin Jun himself was stunned. Chun Lin sneered and said, Yes, a saint. Which one of you here would be wary of a saint right from the start? Before Grand Primordium met this kid, I'm afraid he wouldn't even look at a saint, right? That woke them up from their dream. Grand Primordium said in deep agreement, I see. President Chun has also fallen into this kid's trap. That's right. Everyone now knew that Lin Shun had true god battle strength with a saint cultivation level. But if they did not know beforehand, a mere saint was just an ant in their eyes. Think about it. Inviting a saint into one's residence, under the circumstances where true god experts were as numerous as clouds in the residence, who would freaking be wary of a saint. A group of true gods surrounding a saint on guard? That scene was comical just thinking about it. Who would be wary of a saint without knowing the situation? It was very normal for a true god to not take a saint seriously. Thinking about it this way, this President Chen's words seemed to be full of loopholes. It was unexpected, but it was also reasonable. Grand Primordium said, "I see. President Chen, you said you know Parta's background?" At the mention of this, everyone pricked up their ears to listen. They were very curious about Lin Chen's background. What ability did a saint have to kill a true god with the power of a saint and not be at a disadvantage when facing a true god with saint cultivation level? A hint of pride appeared between Chun Lin's brows as he said, "Naturally, it's his mental cultivation method." Mental cultivation method? Everyone was puzzled. Chun Lin said, "Like I said earlier, this kid stole our family's cultivation methods. One of them is a mental cultivation method. The mental cultivation method he cultivates is beyond the orange level." Grand Primordial Ancestor felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Could it be? Everyone's pupils shrank, and their eyes were filled with shock. Beyond the orange level. For ordinary people, there were some cultivation methods that they would never be able to see through to the peak of their grade. However, to the people present, some legends were not just limited to legends. The human race's cultivation techniques were divided into the yellow rank, green rank, cyan rank, blue rank, purple rank, and orange rank. Orange-grade cultivation techniques were categorized into beginner, intermediate, advanced, and pinnacle. However, there was another tier above the top orange tier. That grade was the pinnacle of the cultivation techniques of the four-dimensional humans. Red step. Only true gods who had reached a certain level of cultivation would know of the existence of crimson rank cultivation methods. A cultivation technique of this grade was even rarer to encounter than a true god who had grasped the laws. At least for the gods present, they had only heard of it. If this kid had cultivated a crimson rank cultivation method, then it was not impossible for him to be able to fight against a true god with the strength of a saint. After all, everyone present, including the two elders of the Yu family, had never seen a real crimson rank cultivation method. Chun Lin continued, "Although it's beyond the orange rank, it still hasn't reached the legendary rank." The fire in everyone's eyes burned even hotter. If it was a crimson rank cultivation method, then the experts who were alarmed would be incredible. If it was a little lower, then they and the forces behind him would still have a chance. Chun Lin smiled mockingly. Grand Primordial Ancestor should be able to prove what I said, right? Grand Primordial Ancestor nodded. That's right. Speaking of which, when this kid revealed his true strength, the number of saint points on his body reached as many as 160. The saint force he unleashed was actually comparable to that of an early-stage second heaven divine realm expert. 160 saint points. Everyone's expression changed. Damn, the more he said, the more ridiculous it was. But what he said was the truth. Chun Lin nodded. And that's right. This is one of the key techniques of that cultivation method. Other than that, that kid has a lot of secrets. For example, he has an alien space that can temporarily release a divine elephant comparable to a third heaven divine realm expert. Grand Primordial Ancestor praised. That's right. We've experienced it before. That divine elephant is indeed troublesome. The handsome and refined heavenly mandate divine elephant said in surprise. Oh, a divine elephant comparable to a third heaven divine realm expert? However, if it can only be released for a while, it's not a problem for us. Chun Lin also said he also has a clone technique that can pass off as a real one. Grand Primordial Ancestor nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, yes. Chun Lin added He also has a top-grade orange rank cultivation method that self-destructs. Moreover, he has a divine dragon in captivity. Grand primordial ancestor praised. That's right, brother. The beautiful maid beside him lifted the corners of her lips slightly, as if she was holding back her laughter. The gods were even more moved. Good heavens, how many trump cards did this Lin Chun have? If it were them, if they hadn't seen the grand primordial divine kingdom lose a few true gods with their own eyes, they would probably find it hard to believe. Chun Lin said in all seriousness, there's also a secret technique that can distort time and space. After saying that, a divine kingdom elder with a broken leg slammed the table. Yes, I'm familiar with this. Grand primordial ancestor glared at the elder angrily, and the latter shrank his neck and sat back down. Chun Lin said, as for the rest, there shouldn't be any left. This kid has been able to resist you for so long. I'm sure he's used up most of his trump cards. Grand primordial ancestor narrowed his eyes and stared at Director Chun. He said seriously, then, Director Chun, what price are you offering to obtain the information? Chun Lin stretched out 2 fingers. Grand primordial ancestor asked tentatively, you're offering 800 divine jades? No, Chun Lin said casually. I'm offering 1,800 divine jades. The more you pay, the more you earn. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This guy really thought that money wasn't money. Chun Lin smiled playfully. However, I'm offering this price to let everyone know that when we capture Lin Chun, this kid's cultivation method will have to be returned to my family. Hey, don't. Everyone's expressions changed slightly. Good heavens. This analysis of the operation was seen in everyone's eyes and heard in their hearts. Lin Chun's trump card might be very strong, but this strength was only temporary. It was very strong against opponents weaker than him. What was truly valuable was still his mental cultivation method. If this cultivation method was brought back to the sect and given to their disciples, one could imagine how much their sects and forces would soar. Moreover, if they could cultivate this cultivation method, wouldn't their realm improve? Chun Lin smiled and said, when the time comes, we'll dig out all his secrets. When the time comes, the grand primordial divine kingdom's losses will be a drop in the ocean. Do you still care? Bang! Lin Chun slammed the table and said in high spirits, isn't it just a small Lin Chun? Deal with him. Grand primordial ancestor clicked his tongue in wonder. Tough. Lin Chun said tough. Chun Lin gave him a thumbs up. Tough enough. Lin Chun waved his hand. Whether it's tough or not, we'll talk about it tonight. There's only one thing on my mind, which is to help Director Chun release this kid. Get the cultivation method back. A small Lin Chun is too arrogant. He dares to bully Brother Chun. I won't allow it. Chun Lin couldn't help but clap. Wonderful. Come, drink. The maidservant nodded and leaned over to pour wine. Chun Lin pushed the wine cup, and Lin Chun drank it in one gulp. The true gods looked at him with slight disdain. Lin Chun, this guy was licking his boots so quickly. Chapter 1901. At this moment, the black and white elders of the Yu family finally spoke. Director Chun, regarding this mental cultivation technique, can you let the Yu family have a share of the pie? The moment this was said, the atmosphere instantly fell silent. Obviously, after listening to the conversation, the most valuable thing Lin Chun had was the mental cultivation technique. And this mental cultivation technique came from Director Chen's family. Now, although the Taichu Divine Kingdom occupied the position of intelligence, Director Chun was the one in charge. In terms of raw strength, he was probably not inferior to anyone present, or even stronger. Chun Lin said slowly as he continued to drink his wine. He even let the maid massage his shoulders for a while. I bought my position as guild leader for the sake of earning money. Also, I don't like to earn money from the poor. Everyone's eyes narrowed. What a F***king straightforward guy. It seemed that Director Chun had been waiting for them. He wanted to earn everyone's money. The same words were repeated, but they had a completely different meaning. coveting someone else's cultivation technique. Simple, they had to fork out money at this juncture. He's so scheming at such a young age. How unexpected. Chun Chun family? Speaking of which, could it be the Chun family of the North region? As expected of a reclusive disciple of an ancient family. He's got some tricks up his sleeve. How far has he schemed? No, I feel that things aren't that simple. Everyone was terrified. They looked at Director Chin's calm expression and thought carefully. Something was wrong. Good Lord, Lin Shun was just a tool. The winner of all this was young Master Chun Lin. Lin Shun had turned the world upside down with his family's mental cultivation technique. What did this mean? It meant that this mental cultivation technique was abnormally powerful. This was equivalent to giving the family behind Chun Lin a powerful and free publicity tool. As for why Chun Lin didn't use the power of the family behind him, everyone was used to it. The big families usually didn't interfere too much with their disciples' training. In a way, chasing Lin Chun was one of the training for Director Chun. He wouldn't do it himself. No wonder Director Chun wanted to earn their money. Amazing too amazing. It seemed like Lin Chun was just a tool, and this young Master Chun Lin was the real winner behind the scenes. Lin Chun and the rest of them were clearly arranged. Young Master Chun is the eternal god. This Lin Chun was like a little brother. The handsome and refined god of heavenly mandate reacted the fastest. He opened his palm, and his divine power spread out like a tide. A crystal-clear jade flute appeared in his palm. He said with a smile, "I obtained this by chance in the first realm sea, and it's called the Jade Sea Tide Flute. It was a divine weapon. He can use the primordial spirit to injure his enemies and kill them without a trace." The corners of the old monster's mouths twitched. The first thing he did was to use a divine artifact. It seemed that the god of revelation was determined to get a share of Lin Chin's mental cultivation method. The deity of heavenly mandate smiled faintly and said, "Director Chun, ordinary divine artifacts may not catch your eye. However, the magical effect of this flute is not only that it can hurt the enemy with a way of rhythm, but also that once the primordial spirit transforms into the realm of the divine soul, it can control 2 divine beasts of the water element. If he reached the divine soul realm, he could use this flute to control 2 water-type divine beasts. This effect was indeed magical. Chunlin glanced at it, raised his eyebrows, and smiled. Not bad, not bad. Buzz. At this moment, the space fluctuated and a snow-white heavenly book appeared in the sky. When the pages flew, rays of divine light surged, and countless illusions of sacred relics formed, forming a terrifying array. Jilong Min, who was dressed in a snow-white robe, smiled faintly. The 100 heavenly books recorded 99 types of god-slaying array, and the last book on condensing loss. It's priceless, and I'm willing to exchange it with Director Chun Lin. Then, Overlord Sword Fong Xie took out a divine sword wrapped in dragon chi, and Lin Jun took out 3 peerless flying knives, all of which were divine weapons. Taichu Ancestor was amazed. Their moves were extraordinary. These guys all took out their most important treasures in order to covet the mental cultivation method. Taichu Ancestor roughly knew what they were scheming. These were all worldly possessions, and with these old monsters' abilities, they would be able to earn them back one day. But this mental cultivation method could only be found by chance. If they could get it, they might be able to peek into the next realm and pursue the opportunity to break through to the next realm. Chunlin looked through them one by one and memorized them all. He knocked on the table and said indifferently, "My father has ordered that this mental cultivation method cannot be revealed casually. The quota is limited," when he said that, the gods who took out their treasures earlier felt their hearts skip a beat. As expected, this business was not that easy to earn. Finally, it was Black and White's turn. The two of them looked at each other and seemed to have made up their minds. Ordinary treasures would not be able to move this Director Chun. Everyone present here has already seen what he can do. If they wanted to take out something, they had to take out something more important. Black and White opened the plant pouch of fate. The branches of two black and white divine trees suddenly appeared. A part that belonged to the two divine trees appeared in the temple. The branches meandered like dragons, and their auras were like immortal fog. Faint frost covered the divine leaves, forming two divine fruits, one black and one white. Then, the two divine trees turned into a young man and a young girl, sitting in the void. They wore thin clothes and looked timid and shy. There was even a divine fruit on each of their heads. It was a mysterious sight. Ein young divine tree. Oh my God, are they serious? A genuine supreme-grade spirit herb. And it's a pair? Supreme-grade spirit herbs were the lifeblood of the major factions and were managed by the people in charge. Black and white were the people in charge of the Yu family's plant pouch of fate. Chun Lin's eyes lit up and he praised. Yes, this spirit herb is not bad. After capturing Lin Chen alive, I'll consider the Yu family first. The two elders looked at each other and kept the spirit herb. That seemingly cold expression was actually a sigh of relief in his heart. In fact, they didn't have the authority to take it out to make a deal. This was one of the foundations of the Yu family. However, if they could exchange it for a peerless cultivation technique, it would be a top-grade deal for the Yu family. It was a sure win. The Grand Primordium Patriarch was amazed by these guys' generosity and then said, President Chun, there's also my previous agreement. Chun Lin said indifferently, according to your agreement, you have to have a share of this kid's secrets, right? No problem. Your Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom will have a share of the cultivation technique. Everyone looked at the Grand Primordium Patriarch enviously, but they weren't jealous. After all, many true gods of the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom had died to plant a mark on Lin Chun. The Grand Primordium Patriarch rubbed his hands. Then the reward for the information, Chun Lin said indifferently. Don't worry, I'll give it to you after you calculate it. Are you afraid that I'll go back on my word? The Grand Primordium Patriarch glanced at the meeting gift on the table, stood up, and nodded. Okay, let's find out where Lin Chun is first. Chun Lin smiled coquettishly. Yes, let's find this guy first. Chapter 1902. After making his decision, the Grand Primordium Patriarch flicked his sleeve, and the divine artifact, the exquisite star horsetail whisk, appeared again after a series of flashes of starlight. The Patriarch waved the horsetail whisk in his hand, and moonlight appeared. The silver strands of the horsetail whisk danced in the wind, and a large amount of moonlight poured down. The moonlight formed a constellation chart, and each constellation represented a region under the star continent. The Grand Primordium Patriarch bit the tip of his tongue, and his essence blood sprayed on the moonlight star map like an arrow. A speck of red moonlight began to appear on the moonlight star map. All the old monsters stared intently. Where could this brat be? When everyone focused their eyes, they were first puzzled, then dumbfounded, and finally shocked, especially those from the Taichu Divine Kingdom. They felt as if they had been struck by lightning. The location of the red moonlight was in the direction of the Taichu Divine Kingdom. Moreover, it happened to be the location of the Divine Kingdom's temple. What was going on? What the F***CK was going on? Lin Chen's location actually showed that he was in the Taichu Divine Kingdom. What kind of method was this? Could it be that something had happened to the Bright Moon Seal? The Grand Primordium Ancestor was so shocked that he muttered to himself, Impossible, absolutely impossible. The Bright Moon Seal of our Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom can't be removed or abnormal unless it's an expert who's 2 realms higher than the Ancestor. There was another possibility, and that was that Lin Chun dared to come to his Taichu Divine Kingdom. But that was impossible. The Taichu Divine Kingdom was so far away from Bloodfox Mountain. The Grand Primordium Patriarch had to rely on his spatial secret technique to return in a few days. Could this Lin Chen have followed him here? The next moment, buzz! The red moonlight turned into a flowing moon-like light and shot out, further locking onto the target. The faint red moonlight pointed straight at President Chun, who was sitting with his legs crossed and drinking leisurely. It finally stopped above his head, condensing and swaying. All the old monsters stared at Chun-Lin. Feng Xie's voice was cold, but he said in disbelief, "President Chun, could it be that the Grand Primordium Patriarch suddenly stood up and stared at him, muttering to himself in shock. Mother of asterisk her, it can't be." Yu Jin's pupils shrank. "President Chun, Chun-Lin, Lin Chun, Chun-Lin, Lin Chun, Lin Chun, Lin Chun." Wouldn't that mean that the name would be the same, even if it was read backwards? However, this was too unbelievable. If the two of them were one person, would he still be able to sell himself? The elder of the Taichu Divine Kingdom looked like he had seen a ghost. If Lin Chun was really Lin Chun, he had snuck into the Taichu Divine Kingdom in 5 days and completely disguised his identity. Then he had actually arrived a few days ago. That was too damn fast. This was a speed that was completely beyond comprehension. No one made a move immediately. They were not sure what was going on. Based on the foundation and methods that Director Chen had displayed, he did not seem like Lin Chen at all. "You're Lin Chen?" The Grand Primordium Patriarch slammed the table and stood up, his eyes wide with anger. The wind and clouds suddenly changed, and Divine Might rolled over. "How dare you? I don't care if you're Chun-Lin or Lin Chen today. Your trump card has been exposed. With the combat power of you and your clone, how can you deal with the many true gods present? There's a path to heaven, but you don't escape. There's no door to hell, but you barge in." Chun-Lin raised his head and laughed. "Ha ha! Expose my trump card? I did take the initiative to reveal the trump card I used, but..." He smiled coldly. "How do you know that's all I have?" Everyone froze. He stood up calmly and rolled up his sleeves, revealing a fist that was shining with golden light. He smiled coquettishly. "Have you tasted the golden divine fist before?" Bang! All the true gods felt a flash of golden light in front of their eyes. The four-dimensional space-time instantly exploded. The sky collapsed and the earth sank. The entire temple exploded into pieces. An unprecedented divine power attacked head-on, shattering heaven and earth. It was invincible and contained an unparalleled aura. Fist. Oh no! The old monsters gathered here vomited blood and retreated. Even though they instinctively activated their defenses, the punch just now was like a god breaking through 1,000 kilograms. It was invincible in the heavens, as if the god of war was alive. It was invincible and domineering in the universe. Bang! 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 The temple exploded, the earth collapsed, the palaces collapsed, and the earth veins cracked. The wind and clouds swirled wildly, and the roar of the wind was like the wails and roars of heaven and earth. The python-like cracks spread all the way and exploded into billowing smoke. The domineering fist wind swept across the world, crushing tens of thousands of feet away and penetrating a large number of palaces inside the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom. Even if they weren't facing the center of the divine fist, everyone was sent flying far away by the fist wind. And at this moment, it was the moment for the true gods maid, Shangguan Yun, and the phantom clone to show their skills. When the phantom doppelganger descended, it used the speed of a flash to intercept the treasures that the crowd had presented earlier. 6 ultimate seals, 7-star seal. Shangguan Yun's 8 fingers formed a seal, and the seal was like 7 stars flashing consecutively. 6 seals layered on top of each other, binding all the divine artifacts, providence spirit plants, supreme-grade treasures, and so on. This sudden scene caught everyone off guard. When the smoke billowed and dispersed, a hurricane raged. Everyone took a closer look and couldn't help but gasp. The Grand Primordium Patriarch's body was covered in blood, and his corpse was everywhere. The divine artifact in his hand, the exquisite star horsetail whisk, had been shattered. One move, just one move. He had killed the Grand Primordium Patriarch. Even though his cultivation level wasn't as high as the old monsters present, with a divine artifact in hand, even a 3rd-level divine realm cultivator wouldn't be able to defeat him in a short time. let alone kill him in one move. What did this kid do? The gods felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar, and their scalps went numb. When they looked in the direction of the temple again, the white-robed young man had already changed into a silver robe and removed his disguise. 160 saint points flickered all over his body, shining like stars. I just heard someone say that I'm just a small Lin Shun and that they want to kill me. Lin Shin's frivolous smile made their hearts tremble. The old monsters finally knew what kind of monster they had provoked. Damn it, he had actually attacked them himself. Which normal person would do such a thing? And he even King betrayed himself? After the elders of the Grand Primordium Divine Kingdom were sent flying by the aftershock, they were even more dumbfounded. Lin Shun, whom they'd spent a lot of effort to find, had actually appeared in front of them so openly. Just a moment ago, he was still talking and laughing with the many reclusive old monsters who wanted to surround him. This young man was too terrifying. Shangguan Yun, who was floating in the air, held multiple trembling balls of light in her hand and sealed the divine artifact. She said in a deep voice, "Their divine artifacts are too powerful. I've done my best to suppress them. Only you can deal with this battle by yourself. Be careful. It's fine." Lin Shen raised his hand and smiled casually. "Didn't you want to see me in my prime? I'll show you now." Shangguan Yun was stunned. She felt more and more that Lin Shen's invincible spirit rose from his body. Many old monsters gritted their teeth. This guy was good at fishing. Their best treasures had all fallen into his hands. Lin Shen flew into a rage out of humiliation. "I don't believe that I can't kill you, you little brat. Let's see how many times you can use that move just now." Boom! Lin Shen's aura shook. Hundreds and thousands of flowing blade shadows spun around him like dancing butterflies. His divine power was vast and mighty, and his divine eyes burst with dazzling divine light. The yin and yang divine light around black and white turned into acupoints, and their hostility was overwhelming. The heavenly mandate. God held the wordless heavenly book in his hand and opened all kinds of ancient arrays. He used his finger to release divine light, and when his finger touched the ground, it formed an array. Feng Xie raised his hand in the air, and his sword will attracted the 9 heavens. He roared, "Sword come!" Boom, boom, boom. Tens of thousands of sword lights converged from the sky and fell into his palm, forming a divine sword. Lin Shen sneered. "You think you're the only one who knows how to do it? Don't pretend to be a wolf." Lin Shen waved his hand, and golden divine light flashed toward the sky. "Trap come!" Chapter 1903. The dazzling golden divine radiance was like the first divine light after the world was created. It shone on his figure and reflected in Shangguan Yun's eyes. Lin Shen's eyes shone with a dazzling golden light. The helmet was made of 3 dragon feather horns, and the breastplate had an indestructible golden outline. There was a lifelike torch dragon carved on it, shocking the world. The left and right arm guards had divine runes carved on them, and the shoulder armor was shaped like a dragon's teeth. There was a cape on his right shoulder that danced in the wind, emitting a faint golden divine radiance. The leg armor was made of golden paint, and it shone with eternal divine radiance. The knee armor was like a dragon's claw, standing on the world. Boom, boom, boom. There were rumbles echoing in the world, as if they were paying respect to the arrival of this invincible being. Even Shangguan Yun, who had experienced the baptism of the realm's sea, couldn't help but be stunned at this moment. He was wearing golden armor, and his cape was fluttering in the wind. Just his figure alone could support the world. "This is his heyday," Shangguan Yun muttered to herself. Everyone's eyes flickered, and they wanted to know everything about Lin Shen. "Don't be afraid of this kid. He's just a brute force. Bluff. I'd like to see how you could defeat all of us today. Don't think that the 3rd level of the divine realm is as simple as the 2nd level of the divine realm. I'll teach you a lesson today." Which of the old monsters present hadn't seen great storms and waves and been to the realm sea before? They didn't run away immediately. It was often the most dangerous to leave one's back to the enemy. Instead, they quickly adjusted their formation. Just crushing grand primordium old ancestor with one move wasn't enough to scare them. Instead, it made their fighting spirits soar, and they even wanted to join hands. Feng Xie shouted, "Attack his lower body and break his primordial spirit. Use sword intent and saber intent to break his primordial spirit's defense." Zhilong Men said, "I'll trap him with an array. He doesn't have the element to crush us." Lin Jun said coldly, "My flying dagger lost art is waiting for an opportunity. He only has pure strength, so he can't turn the tide by himself. You two old fogies, use your Inyan lost art to seal him." The handsome face of the god of heavenly mandate stared at Lin Chen's golden armor, and a trace of madness and greed appeared on his face. This kid is only a saint, and he can't maintain this trump card for too long. If he can hold him back, call for reinforcements immediately. If this war of attrition starts, we'll win. Yu Mie and Eugene looked at each other. No words were needed. That's right, they didn't have to kill Lin Chen here. As long as they had a variety of methods to delay him, they definitely wouldn't lose to a saint in a battle of attrition. The faces of the four heavenly kings and the emperor of the Taichu divine nation darkened. The Taichu Grand Elder's face instantly turned pale. The true gods of the Taichu divine nation had heard the words of the fifth prince before he died on the trip to Blood Fox Mountain, including the emperor's trusted aide. Lin Chen's avatar cheered the emperor on. "Be strong, you must be strong. If you won't wear a hat, you must bear a cuckold. I can see that your divine nation's patriarch is still a treasure. In your harem, his might is still there. I, Lin Chen, am willing to call you the greenest." The Taichu emperor's face was gloomy, and the clouds above his head suddenly changed, brewing other emotions. A crazy killing intent flashed across the eyes of the Taichu Grand Elder's primordial spirit, but he hurriedly turned around and explained to the Taichu emperor, "Jeaner, this is a scheme by this brat to split our divine nation. You must endure and see the truth. I'll endure you, my foot." Boom! The Taichu emperor slapped down and instantly crushed the last wisp of the Taichu Grand Elder's primordial spirit. Although the four heavenly kings didn't understand, they wouldn't question the emperor's choice. They only locked onto the enemy's position. "Lin Chen, right? I was busy sorting out state affairs the day before yesterday. Since you dare to barge into the Taichu divine nation, I will let you die very quickly." The Taichu emperor's veins were exposed, and his well-defined handsome face was filled with madness. He shouted coldly, "For heavenly kings, activate the Taichu bright moon formation and kill the enemy with me. Kill this brat." Boom! Boom! The four heavenly kings turned into four divine lights and separated. A brilliant bright moon formation immediately rose in the sky. It was like 1,000 bright moons overlapping, and the primordial ruins of the ancient civilization appeared one after another. Even the space and ground in the Divine Nation Palace became indestructible, turning into layers of barriers that blocked Lin Chen's path of retreat. The Taichu Divine Nation is going to fight this brat to the death. Just nice. Let's go with the Taichu Divine Nation. When our reinforcements arrive, the one who will die will be this brat. When the 6 old monsters and the Taichu Divine Nation stood together, Shangguan Yun stared at his back. The Taichu Divine Nation still had more than 10 true gods, and this nation-protecting formation was the foundation of the Divine Nation that had been accumulated for many years. It was enough to trap a mid-stage or even late-stage third-level Divine Realm cultivator. In addition to these 6 ancient true gods at the third level of the Divine Realm, how could he deal with the Taichu Divine Nation alone? Even an early-stage, 4th-level Divine Realm cultivator couldn't do it. Chapter 1904. Everyone's here? He raised his eyebrows, and his eyes under the golden helmet surged with an eternal divine light. Lin Chun, who was wearing the golden battle god armor, took a step forward and jumped down. Lin Chun turned into a meteor and fell from the sky. The shining golden battle god landed on the ground. Boom! Boom! When Lin Chun landed, he suddenly stomped his foot. Bang! Boom! Chi! 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 The earth veins that had been reinforced by the nation-protecting array were instantly opened, and the wind howled. With Lin Chun as the center, the entire space exploded, and heaven and earth collapsed. The curved four-dimensional space kept trembling, and the ground instantly shattered like tofu. Bang! 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 A terrifying air wave soared into the sky like a mushroom cloud, spreading to the surroundings. The shockwaves stirred up the fragments and sent them flying into the air. Dust and smoke billowed, and the great nation-protecting array in the sky was stirred up by the atmosphere. The terrifying power tore everything apart, and the thousands of moons sank one after another, shattering into fragments that filled the sky, leaving only a dazzling golden light in the world. Everyone was forced back thousands of feet by the aftermath of this power, and they were all shocked. The four heavenly kings of the divine kingdom of Taichu spat out blood and retreated. They were the ones maintaining the array, but Lin Chun instantly broke it, and they were caught off guard. Even the emperor of Taichu suffered from the backlash. He took a few steps back, and his pupils constricted as he muttered to himself, "There's such a thing?" When he looked again, the entire divine kingdom palace had turned into endless ruins. The divine dragon flew into the sky and protected Shangwan Yun, who was completely stunned. He shattered the divine kingdom of Taichu's nation-protecting array with one step. He was more than terrifying. He was simply the incarnation of Invincible, a battle god that could sweep through everything. Looking at the figure standing proudly in the center of the ruins, an unprecedented emotion rose in Shangwan Yun's heart. Admiration? Worship? It was far from that. It was more like an incomparably dazzling divine light shining on the path of pursuit. No matter how she moved forward, even looking up at his back had become an extravagant hope. It doesn't matter how many gods come today. Lin Chun shouted coldly. Air currents swirled, and the gods were shocked. His aura rose steadily, and his words resounded in the hearts of all the deities. I'm only here to destroy the Taichu divine kingdom. So what if there are a few more dead gods on the road to the underworld? Those who stand in my way will die. Boom! With a loud explosion, Lin Chun's golden battle armor exploded. The earth vein and space beneath his feet instantly exploded. His figure abruptly moved forward and collided directly. With a flash of golden light, Lin Chun actually smashed apart the two true divinity elders from Scandinavia. His divine body exploded, and the shattered divine light mixed with bloody mist scattered all over the sky. Attribute light balls filled the sky. Hiss! The deities' lips twitched, and they couldn't help but inhale sharply. A single charge had slain a god. There were no fancy techniques, only tyrannical strength. Time and space trembled and distorted. The distorted world was full of space cracks. Lin Chun shouted, "He's coming for us!" Boom! The divine might of the heavenly mandate god surged, and divine light surged in his palm. He pulled open a divine bow that was 100 feet long and shot it. The divine arrow burning with blazing divine might suddenly shot out, turning into a red aurora in the sky and falling toward the golden flash that was charging at him at lightning speed. A top-level orange-tier battle technique. This arrow was the ultimate technique of the heavenly mandate god, who was at the early stage of the third tier of the divine realm. He used his trump card to deal with Lin Chun. It was too sharp, and almost no one at the same level would take this arrow head-on. Just as everyone adjusted their attacks and prepared to aim at his retreat, unexpectedly, Lin Chun actually advanced instead of retreating. He rushed forward and stretched out his hands to catch the arrow that was shot from the sky. Clang! The divine arrow was stopped in midair, and the heavenly mandate God's expression was as if he had seen a ghost. This was F*King fake, right? Catching his top-level orange tier battle technique. The heavenly mandate, divine arrow, barehanded? Even a fourth-tier divine realm expert wouldn't dare to court death like this. In the next moment, Lin Shun pulled with both hands and tore the divine arrow apart. The arrow is powerless. Heavenly mandate God, is your strength insignificant? Lin Shun smiled evilly. He stepped forward and turned into a golden flash, closing in on the heavenly mandate God. He raised his hand and slammed it down. Kaboom! Bam! Lin Shun slammed out with his palm, shattering the heavenly mandate God's divine bow, and slamming it toward him with an unstoppable force. This palm was the most powerful one in the world. The golden light between his 5 fingers exploded with the power to suppress ghosts and gods. The heavenly mandate God sensed the smell of death and retreated in horror. He found that time and space were distorted, and he couldn't escape from the attack range of Lin Shen's palm. This guy's power has broken through the dimensions. Time and space are collapsing, and I can't escape. The heavenly mandate, God's mouth trembled. Buzz, buzz. At this critical moment, 2 yin and yang acupoints, one black and one white, suddenly appeared in front of Lin Shun, blocking Lin Shen's palm. The palm shattered the yin and yang acupoints, and the afterimages of Yu Mia and Eugene appeared, pulling the heavenly mandate God away. Then, Fang Xie's figure stepped on the sword Qi and slashed with his sword. A flash of sword light with supreme sword will pulled open, and a horizontal slash bounced off Lin Shen's palm, stopping Lin Shen's figure in midair for the first time. Fang Xie's hand holding the sword was numb from the shock, and his pupils shrank. He crushed the yin and yang divine power of the 2 elders of the Yu family, and his palm still has such a powerful force. Almost at the same time, crescent moon-like blood-red blade light slashed from all directions, like a storm of blade light, surrounding Lin Shun. The blood-red blade light was very strange. Some absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, some pierced through divine power, some could swallow all qi and blood, and some could cut primordial spirits and even spirits. It was Lin Shun, one of the 10 ultimate flying daggers. His flying daggers could destroy almost all energy in the same realm. Even qi, blood, and primordial spirits couldn't escape from his attacks. Using a flying dagger underhanded move? Golden body of the god of war. Lin Shun sneered, and his shoulders shook suddenly. Endless golden light of the god of war was released around him, turning into a vortex, spinning like a ring of stars. All the blade light fell into the golden light of the god of war, and a series of explosions burst out, and the speed of the blades became extremely slow. Lin Shun raised his palm and smashed all the 9th order flying daggers, and a bunch of elemental light balls burst out. Lin Shun screamed, "No, my blade!" Boom! Lin Shun broke the Starry Sea heavenly god formation set up by the G-Dragon Gate, and when he was near Lin Shun sneered and said, "Instead of worrying about your blade, why don't you worry about your penis?" At the same time, Lin Shun punched toward the sky. Boom! Bang! This punch went from bottom to top, and a large area of spatial ripples appeared in the curved 4-dimensional world. The divine punch, shining with golden light, penetrated Lin Shun's divine body. This time, no one was able to provide any cover in time. Lin Shun, an early-stage, 3rd heaven divine realm true god, a supreme expert who had dominated the divine world star province, was blasted into a mist of blood that scattered across the horizon. Even all the treasures in the Providence plant pouch were destroyed. Lin Shen's attacks were simply unstoppable. Wherever his attack went, it was invincible. The god of war was invincible. When Lin Shun exploded into a bloody mist, everyone's pupils constricted. They finally knew how wrong it was to stall for time. What was there to stall for? Run. This kid was not at the level they could deal with at all. Lin Shun said, "Don't worry, I'll kill you with one punch." Chapter 1905. Domineering, heaven-defying, invincible, sweeping away everything. Lin Shun had single-handedly beaten the Taichu divine kingdom and the true gods to the point that they couldn't fight back at all. It was as if he had entered an unstoppable realm. What kind of fortuitous encounter does a saint have to be so powerful? What kind of foundation does he have to withstand such heaven-defying power? It's too unreasonable, too king unfair. If he becomes a god, won't he ascend to the heavens? Momentum and battle intent were the most important factors in the battle. Once the battle intent collapsed, it would be useless. The true gods no longer cared if Lin Shun was bluffing or not. This guy clearly had the strength to crush all of them. Staying a moment longer would increase the risk of death. It's too late to escape now. Lin Shun opened his palm, and the pitch-black divine power condensed into a pure cube. Lin Shun suddenly slammed his palm into the void, and the pitch-black divine power formed a boundless barrier that enveloped the Taichu divine kingdom's palace. Host has activated the energy-type divine spark, divine guidance fragment, consuming 1 million high-grade, divine heavenly path points and continuing to consume. Rumble. The boundless gravity turned into the power of the divine guidance fragment that suppressed ghosts and gods, and it pressed down heavily. Bang! 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 The few Taichu divine kingdom elders who were floating in the air fell one after another, their faces filled with shock. There was no mistake. This strange gravity was the supergravity used on Blood Fox Mountain back then, the divine power that crushed the severely injured second-level true gods alive. Lin Shun clenched his 5 fingers, and the divine guidance fragment collapsed further as if it was going to shrink this space and heaven and earth into one. Even my blood tiger Kasaya can't block it. This is King different from what the intel said. We can't escape. The remaining 5 old monsters and 8 true gods of the Taichu divine kingdom were suppressed especially badly. Those with powerful cultivation could still hold on for a while. However, the elders of the Taichu divine kingdom were only at the early stage of the second level of the true god realm, not to mention that they were injured before. Their divine bodies cracked. Divine blood glinted and divine light gushed out from their wounds. Their bones creaked under the pressure. Their divine power was drained to cover their divine bodies to resist the gravity. However, their situation was getting worse and worse. When Lin Shun was on Blood Fox Mountain, he could only trap about 8 second-tier divine realm experts when he used the divine spark fragment. Now, there were 5 third-tier divine realm experts present, and the Yu family's black and white elders were even at the late stage of the third-tier divine realm. Yet, they were still firmly suppressed. It was clear that the power of a quintessence shard had increased exponentially. Lin Shun didn't even need to do anything for the injured elders of Divine Nation. The gravity of the god summoning enchantment crushed them into pieces, turning them into a bloody mist. These old monsters might still have some trump cards up their sleeves. Kill them quickly. Lin Shun stomped his foot and turned into a golden flash. He charged forward and slammed into the 4 heavenly kings of the Taichu divine kingdom. When the 4 heavenly kings of the Taichu divine kingdom saw Lin Shun attacking, they condensed their divine power into blades and raised their hands to counterattack. Lin Shun charged over with his shoulder like a falling meteor, shattering the divine body of an elder. Wearing the golden battle god set, Lin Shun raised his leg and swept it across. His whip leg whistled like a dragon, and his aura was majestic and domineering like the sun and moon in the sky. A whip leg pulled past like a guillotine. With a flash of divine light, it completely destroyed their divine power and divine bodies, blasting them into pieces. The 4 heavenly kings of the divine nation had fallen. When Eugene and Yumia of the Yu family saw this scene, a hint of fear appeared on their usually unfathomable faces. Once the Taichu divine kingdom was destroyed, it would be their turn next. Lin Shun, the Taichu emperor, shouted at the top of his lungs. He raised his hand in the air, and the sun, moon, and stars all gathered in his palm. His divine power erupted, and an illusory image of the Son of Heaven rose above his head. His divine body burned violently, and his dragon robe fluttered. Beams of divine light burned into brilliance, forming thousands of dragon-shaped fragments that interweaved into the supreme Son of Heaven statue. The Son of Heaven was wearing a dragon robe, and an azure dragon formed from fragments spun in his palm. He stepped on a storm vortex and looked down on all living beings. The Taichu Divine Kingdom's guardian technique, the myriad era divine scripture. The Taichu Emperor controlled the Son of Heaven statue and punched down. An azure dragon danced, and a calamity appeared. Storms turned into fist winds that crushed the surrounding seas and wastelands. The Taichu Emperor didn't hesitate to risk his life, burning his divine body and all his divine power to condense this strongest attack. Even a late-stage, third-tier divine realm expert didn't dare to take this desperate attack head-on. Lin Xin stepped on the air with a majestic gait, like a river flowing on the ground. Every step he took stirred up a terrifying gust of wind. Facing the Taichu Emperor's desperate killing move, Lin Xin's shoulders shook. Divine light condensed, and he didn't retreat. He punched toward the sky, face to face. How can a mere Son of Heaven defeat my undefeatable God of War? The power of this punch was like a million divine dragons appearing. It was like a four-dimensional universe storm erupting, shaking the sun and moon, overturning heaven and earth, and collapsing the four-dimensional space-time. The two fists collided, and a cloud of dust instantly exploded in the center. Divine light bloomed, and the azure dragon shattered. Boom! Bang! 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 The Son of Heaven statue shattered, and the Taichu Emperor was annihilated. The golden fist wind penetrated the statue and shattered his body. Before he shattered, the Taichu Emperor still revealed an expression of disbelief. My divine kingdom was actually destroyed by a brat. The Taichu Emperor had completely disappeared. The punches of the two sides were on completely different levels. Even early-stage, third-tier, true god's dying blow couldn't cause any damage to him. This scene made the five true gods who were desperately trying to exchange for a chance to escape feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. They were deeply suppressed by the god's enchantment, and it was difficult for them to escape even if they wanted to. This restriction was much stronger than Lin Chen's Divine Dragon Ultimate Prison, Heavenly Prison. In a flash, Lin Chen turned into a golden flash. He rushed toward the North Region Song family's Heavenly Mandate deity. The Heavenly Mandate deity screamed in fear, "Don't come over!" Lin Chen approached, and the Heavenly Mandate deity wanted to fight back. Lin Chen suddenly increased the power of the god's enchantment, suppressing him until he couldn't move. The Heavenly Mandate deity's pupils shrank. He looked on helplessly as Lin Chen raised his palm into the air and chopped down like a knife. Whoosh! Rip! The top of the Heavenly Mandate deity's head was split open by Lin Chen's bare hands, and a large number of attribute light balls and red attribute treasure chests fell out. Another true god of eternity died, just like that. Lin Chen's gaze turned. The remaining Feng Xie, Jilong men, and the Yu family's black and white elders were terrified. Whoosh! Rip! At this time, the Yu family's black and white elders used some strange technique to break through the supergravity binding of the god's enchantment. As expected, the old tortoise's life is really tough. Lin Chen's eyelids twitched. These two were indeed late-stage, third-tier divine realm. They could actually break free from the power of the god's enchantment. Let's kill these two old things first. Stepping on the golden greaves, Lin Chen instantly rushed toward the black and white elders. When the two old monsters saw him suddenly attacking them aggressively and locking onto them, they were so scared that their old faces turned pale and ferocious. The two elders' expressions were saying, "Can't you let the old people live?" Chapter 1906. Eugene, Why did this brat target us first? Yumia? Damn it, this brat doesn't play by the rules. Jilong Min. Yes, hit them. Fong Xia. Hit them, don't hit us. Just as the two people who were trapped in the god-binding barrier were frantically trying to break free, they suddenly seemed to have sensed something, and they were overjoyed. Chi! Rip! Several sharp sonic booms suddenly sounded from all directions at the same time, and the pitch-black god-binding barrier cracked with the sound. Spiderweb-like cracks instantly spread all over the barrier, and then it burst open. Bang! 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 The god-binding barrier collapsed, and the pitch-black divine power turned into fragments that filled the sky. The power that broke the barrier came from the outside world. Almost at the same time, 4 of Lin Chen's doppelgangers guarding outside the god-binding barrier died instantly. That's right, they didn't encounter a battle, but were killed in an instant. One must know that Lin Chen's doppelgangers were comparable to most early-stage 2 divine realm experts. Lin Chen's doppelgangers didn't even have time to react before they were killed instantly. It was clear that the strength of the person who came suppressed them in all aspects. The last 2 people who were trapped in the god-binding barrier were relieved of a heavy burden, and they revealed the ecstasy of surviving a disaster. Ji Longmin shouted, "Your Honor, you're finally here." Shang Wanyan's expression changed slightly. This aura? No, there's several of them. More powerful experts have come? Lin Chan raised his eyebrows, but his momentum of chasing after the 2 elders didn't decrease. In fact, it even sped up a bit. Buzz! Sword intent roared, and heaven and earth turned upside down. A wisp of sword intent swept across heaven and earth, and like an evil dragon, it slashed toward Lin Chen's back. Lin Chen instantly took a step forward and turned around. With a backhand punch, he crushed the sword will. The owner of the sword intent let out a puzzled and surprised sound, as if he was surprised that Lin Chen could break his sword intent so easily. In the distant void, a pair of sharp eyes opened and looked at Lin Chen with interest. This power is even stronger than those 2 old things. Lin Chen sensed that the power of this sword surpassed late-stage, 3rd-level divine realm. It was very likely that it was an even higher realm. There were also experts. After shattering the sword intent with a single punch, Lin Chen didn't hesitate at all. He took a step and spun around. His might was like a river flowing on the earth. His figure crushed straight towards the 2 black and white elders. Yu Fan and Yu Mia were forced to stop in midair. They used their yin-yang divine power to transform it into a pair of sharp scissors. Who would have thought that Lin Chen would smash the 2's attacks into smithereens, causing the expressions of the 2 youths who had been living in seclusion to change? Boom! All of a sudden, a gigantic palm that blotted out the sky tore through the clouds and pulled the black and white elders apart by several thousand feet. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows. You want to save someone? At the same time, in the curved sky, a vortex appeared where Ji Longmin and Fong Xia were and sucked them in. They were the forces behind the various true gods. The signal they had sent out for help had finally arrived. However, it seemed that, due to some reason, they didn't come out to deal with Lin Chen personally. Instead, they chose to save the true gods of their sections. Fong Xia said from behind, "Your Holiness, you're finally here. Take this brat down. His secret isn't a small matter." A low and fierce voice came from the other side of the space vortex. "You're teaching me what to do." Fong Xia panicked. "No, I don't dare to." That low and fierce voice carried rolling sword intent as it said slowly, "Fong Xia, be clear of your identity. Don't cross the line. If not for the fact that your sect is of the same origin as mine, I wouldn't be able to open up time and space to save you personally. I've already given you a lot of face by using my sword earlier. If you don't know what's good for you and don't know what's good for you, take note of your own official career." Fong Xia broke out in cold sweat. Yes, Fong Xia has crossed the line. Fong Xia and the others present were already the top true gods of the ancient sections. There was only one person who was stronger than them: ancient giants. These reinforcements were all supreme experts from the ancient giant sects. After that, Jilongmin and Fengxie were sent to the other side of the space vortex and were about to be taken away. Suddenly, a grand Tao sound that caused heaven and earth to rumble reverberated through heaven and earth. Young man, you're very arrogant. I've arrived, yet you still dare to touch the Yu family's people. A terrifying divine aura came from the direction of the two Yu family elders. The wind and clouds in the curved heaven and earth suddenly changed, and the entire sky suddenly darkened. Shang Yun's pretty face changed. Lin Chun, run. Be careful. The power behind the two Yu family elders was even more terrifying than Fengxie and Jilongmin. The owner of this voice was even more terrifying. Shang Yun could even feel the divine aura of the laws. A true god who controlled laws, and a true god who didn't were on two completely different levels. Shang Yun still wanted Lin Chun to run, but with his bad temper, there was no way he would run. He would probably fight to the end. Young man, you've angered me. I originally didn't want to bother with a junior like you, but since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The Grand Tao sound carried a fury that could burn heaven and earth. After the giant palm took Yu Fan and Yu Miao Wei, the sky above the Taichu divine kingdom cracked open. Bang! 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 Endless waves of fire exploded in the sky, and the monstrous waves of fire ignited the entire Taichu divine kingdom ruins. The high temperature drowned everything, burning the void until it distorted violently. This terrifying heat didn't just contain fire elemental divine power, but also the power of laws that could burn the world. It was the law of fire. Rumble. A Qilin pounced out of the monstrous waves of fire. It had a flaming head and body, and it swayed its tail as it charged toward Lin Chun. Wherever the fire Qilin passed, it crushed rivers and burned everything. The ruins of the divine kingdom turned into a sea of fire, and everything kept melting. This was a Qilin formed purely from the law of fire. Its power could destroy heaven and earth. From the other side of the space vortex came a cold shout of absolute judgment. Die. This move was several times stronger than the one that sneak attacked Lin Chun. Lin Chun stepped on the void. Divine radiance circulated, and golden light was dazzling. His eyes reflected the golden divine light. So what if you're an ancient giant? Lin Chun raised his hand, and golden light condensed in his palm. A divine radiance broke through heaven and earth and gathered in his palm, finally transforming into a golden battle spear. Host used the Golden Battle God set's supplementary equipment, Battle God Spear. Energy consumption has increased. Note, the host's energy is about to be exhausted. Wearing the Battle God armor, Lin Chun held a spear in his hand, and his domineering aura surged. The Battle God cloak fluttered in the wind, and the terrifying Law Qilin surged over, but it didn't shake him at all. The fighting spirit in his eyes soared. You want me to die? Who do you think you are? Holding the spear with both hands, Lin Chun swept toward the sky with pure strength. The tip of the spear erupted with divine light, and the divine spear broke through the heavenly river. Violent winds rose between heaven and earth. Time and space were reversed, and the laws collapsed. The divine light at the tip of the spear collided with the Law Qilin. Rumble. Bam. The crescent-shaped golden divine radiance swept through the sky like a storm, destroying everything in its path. The might of the spear was unstoppable, and it directly crushed the Law Qilin, blasting it in half. What? An incredulous voice came from the other side of the spatial passageway. With a bang, the spatial passageway instantly exploded. The spear of the battle god had shattered the Law Qilin, and it had also blasted the other side of the spatial passageway apart. Oh! A tragic cry instantly reverberated between heaven and earth. An arm flew out from the other side of the spatial passageway, splattering blood everywhere. Attribute light balls fell from the sky and floated in the air. Gasp! All of the powerful beings who witnessed this scene couldn't help but draw a sharp intake of breath. That supreme being from ancient times, a supreme being who controlled the laws of nature. Even his arm had been broken by Lin Shun. At that moment, the scenery on the other side of the spatial passageway appeared. Lin Shun wore a suit of golden battle armor and held the battle god spear in his hand. He stood proudly, as if nothing in the world could suppress his figure. Lin Shun watched as the spatial passageway split open. On the other side of the spatial passageway, a group of figures appeared on the other side of the spatial passageway. That group of figures just happened to be looking straight at the golden battle god holding the divine spear. Chapter 1907. There were countless geniuses in the heavenly realm's star continent. Geniuses were short-lived. Geniuses rose to power. Geniuses shocked the world. However, no matter how many geniuses were born in the star continent, if they didn't enter the heavenly tablet, they would only be a flash in the pan. The star continent recognized those who could be called geniuses. Only those who had achieved great feats. Great feats were feats that even the gods who control the laws were shocked by. Only those who had achieved great feats could be called first-rate geniuses in the heavenly realm. Otherwise, no matter how young a god was, how strong a saint's acupoint expansion and acupoint condensation was, how strong their mental cultivation technique was, or how lucky they were to become a god, they were just so. Only those who had achieved great feats were true geniuses. Everything else was just mediocre. Geniuses who didn't even have great feats had no chance of reaching the peak. Star Continent, Supreme God Pavilion. In a guest room, the handsome, cyan-robed young master frowned as he listened to the tall and cold woman beside him crying. The cold and elegant woman was none other than the battle maniac, Yu Tianwei. However, with Yu Tianwei's arrogant personality, at this moment, she was as obedient as a wronged kitten. In front of this cyan-clothed young master, her arrogance was not worth a mention. Her arrogance was worthless. Qianling, he destroyed the divine sword you gave me just like that. He even took my hand. Yu Tianwei sobbed. Yu Tianwei cried pitifully. Qianling, you have to avenge me. Don't you like it when I help you with my hands? Now, even my hands, enough, the cyan-robed young master said. There's no need to say more. I'll remember this. The cyan-robed young master stood up. His eyes were filled with a destructive storm. The law of wind was like a hurricane brewing. He said coldly, when the Star Continent's Divine Sea Expedition is over, I'll take care of him for you. Yu Tianwei was wild with joy, and his killing intent towards a certain person became even stronger, and his desire to kill became even more urgent. I'll go take care of the meeting first. Wait for me here. Yes, in the Extreme God Pavilion, many godly geniuses gathered to discuss the Star Continent Godly Assembly, which was less than a year away. The Gods' Assembly of the Star Continent was an expedition to the Nine Realms Sea with the representatives of the Star Continent's geniuses who had achieved great feats. Only those who had the ability to reach the peak were qualified to participate in the expedition. Outside of the Supreme God Pavilion, a group of powerful cultivators stood guard. They came from different forces, and they were all super strong cultivators from ancient times. At the very least, they were at the 4th level of the divine realm. Some of them even had nomological auras emanating from their bodies. Their rage caused the mountains and seas to freeze. Inside the Supreme God Pavilion, the godly talents were gathered. Dozens of handsome men and beautiful women were gathered together. Some of the seats in the hall were empty, some were occupied, and some had sent representatives. As for the 5 seats in the front row, they were made of purple gold and jade. They were especially eye-catching, as if they had been prepared for some extraordinary existence. Out of the 5 seats, 4 of them were present, but there was a special ball of divine soul light floating in the air. The divine soul burned with purple light, like a beautiful fairy dancing in the dark night, vivid and lifelike. for words were written on the seat, "Peerless Demon Empress." At this time, one of the four people in the front row, the cyan-robed young master holding the white feather fan, was talking cheerfully and wittily. His brows were full of confidence, as if he could control the wind and clouds. His fingertips tapped on the table. The atmosphere was very quiet, but there was also a kind of tense atmosphere. The cyan-robed young master said slowly, "I think everyone knows what happened a few months ago. Among us, there were a few idiots who wanted to challenge the granddaughter of the martial god king, and they were beaten up. Now they're still lying on the bed, unconscious." When this matter was mentioned, the expressions of the godly talents were very interesting. The granddaughter of the martial god king. This woman's origin was very fierce. She was very fierce in all aspects. She was the granddaughter of the martial god king who was lost in the lower realm and was doted on by the martial god clan. Some time ago, the martial god king held a martial god assembly to discuss martial arts. Many godly talents wanted to ask for guidance from the younger generation of the martial god clan, and they even picked the granddaughter of the martial god king to ask for guidance, hoping to gain her favor. In the end, the godly talent who asked for guidance was beaten up into a pig's head. His posturing failed, and he was beaten up instead, causing this assembly to be held in advance. The cyan-robed young master put away the white feather fan and said indifferently, "Because of those idiots, the number of spots to enter the realm sea has increased by quite a bit. Everyone should understand the importance of the divine sea of Star State. After the allocation from above, we have unanimously decided to find a few geniuses who are close to godly talents as substitutes." At this time, another young godly talent wearing a black robe and a cloak spoke, his voice hoarse. This time, the people who will be selected from the various clans must be selected strictly. If you want to fish in troubled waters, I advise you to give up on this idea. A beautiful and charming goddess sneered. There is no need for you to remind us. Take care of yourself, surnamed Yuan. The black-robed, godly talent frowned, killing intent suddenly appearing. Hichem, the beautiful and charming goddess, stood up, glaring at him with her almond eyes. "Ah, you want to die?" Tired of living, both sides were ready to fight, looking at each other like, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at?" It was like they were going to fight at the slightest disagreement. The godly talents who could sit here, which one of them wasn't a 1 in 10,000 monstrous existence from the ancient giant forces. They were arrogant and unyielding, not willing to submit to anyone. The cyan-robed young master lightly waved the white feather fan and said indifferently, "If you want to fight so much, I'll be your referee." As soon as he spoke, the atmosphere immediately eased a little. At this time, a beautiful figure in the corner spoke. "I have a candidate." That beautiful figure in a green dress was delicate like a green lotus, beautiful like a peach blossom. She seemed to be a young girl in her teens, and she smiled sweetly. Recently, a nameless saint appeared in the southern region. Can he kill a god? Since we've entered a dangerous place like the ninefold realm sea, why don't we try bringing this kind of unexpected trump card? After speaking, the girl in the green dress swept a glance at the cyan-robed young master in the 5 seats. The latter's brows twitched violently a few times, and his eyes narrowed. Then, the girl in the green dress flicked her finger, and a droplet of divine power shot into the hall. When it melted, it diffused into a series of divine talismans. "This is the information I've collected. Take a look." The green droplet melted into a series of information, attracting the gazes of dozens of godly talents. "Oh, unknown origin, suspected to be a 3-dimensional lower realm person." The first sentence attracted all the godly talents. When they looked down, the godly talents were bewildered. 3-dimensional human, Lin Chun? The moment this name was mentioned, the divine soul light of the peerless demon empress suddenly trembled, and light flickered. Under the cyan-robed young master's calm expression, there was a hint of murderous intent hidden. Shockingly, the information hanging in the air of the hall was information about Lin Chun. The information about the battle at Blood Fox Mountain was transmitted to the geniuses present at high speed. When the godly talents carefully read it, their expressions were especially interesting. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.